In the year 2020X, mysterious metallic gates suddenly manifest throughout the modern world.
A green light emanates from a central lens on a massive, ornate metal door.
The narrative reveals these gates lead into dangerous subterranean labyrinths known as catacombs. Within the fiery depths of the catacombs, terrifying monsters and undead creatures reside. Horrific creatures threaten to invade the human world if catacombs remain neglected for too long.
Screaming silhouettes of helpless civilians are consumed by the flames of a monster invasion.
Individuals who survive the catacombs for long enough can eventually manifest special magical skills. Empowered humans use magic circles to fight back and conquer the dangerous catacomb layers. Those who possess skills and conquer the dungeons are hailed as heroic conquerors. A sharp transition shifts the focus from the world's history to the present day.
In a modern classroom, a teacher lectures about the high prestige of the Conqueror profession.
A weary sigh escapes the student's lips as he leans heavily on his hand. The green-haired student Sota Sasaki introduces himself while looking bored during the class. Sota writes about his Conqueror parents, mentioning his father's death and his mother's condition.
Sota stares out the window, his mind far away from the ongoing school lesson. A terrifying, dark silhouette with a wide grin appears reflected in the window glass.
A sudden, sharp "ah" rings out as Sota screams at the apparition, drawing the teacher's annoyance.
After falling from his chair, Sota's classmates demand to know why he is being disruptive.
Nearby girls whisper about Sota's strange behavior, labeling him as a creepy individual.
Sota recalls how his unique vision has plagued him since he was a young child. The grinning spirit lingers at the glass, visible only to Sota's cursed eyes.
This unwanted power allows him to perceive the spirits of the dead in his surroundings.
A young Sota stands beside his tall father inside the dark, rocky depths of a catacomb. He previously attempted to awaken a skill within the catacombs while his father was still alive.
Overwhelming fear of the surrounding spirits prevented the young boy from focusing on his awakening.
Unlike his father, a famous flame sorcerer, Sota failed to awaken any special skills. Back in the present, a blonde boy looms over Sota and asks if he is all right.
Sota tentatively accepts the helping hand offered by the seemingly concerned blonde boy.
His expression shifts to sudden surprise as he looks up at his classmate. Sota recognizes the boy as Takuto Saiga, a figure from his childhood. Takuto Saiga looks down with a calm smile that masks his true intentions. The dark night sky serves as a backdrop to Sota's internal thoughts about Takuya. A sudden rough "ow" escapes him as he is jerked upward by the collar by Takuto. Takuto leans in close, whispering a threatening command to meet him at their usual spot.
Students nearby praise Takuto's kindness while Sota watches his supposed friend with a grim look.
Sota scoffs internally at the irony of his classmates considering Takuto a big-hearted person. The memory of Takuto's cruelty flashes as Sota expresses his inward rage at the hypocrisy.
Later that day, Sota cowers on the ground as Takuto scolds him for being late.
Takuto and his gang mock Sota, calling him a pathetic, self-proclaimed psychic.
Clenching his fist in the dirt, Sota seethes with resentment toward his cruel tormentor.
Takuto grabs Sota by the collar and aggressively demands that he hand over his money. He sneers at the meager amount of cash Sota manages to produce from his pocket. Sota pleads to keep his money for medical bills, but Takuto kicks him while insulting his mother.
Takuto insults Sota's hospitalized mother and mocks his father for dying a broken man.
The bully questions the value of Sota's family and mocks his claims of spiritual sight.
Noticing Sota's defiant glare, Takuto becomes enraged by the boy's sudden display of spirit.
He grits his teeth in anger, refusing to tolerate any resistance from the incompetent boy. Takuto delivers a brutal punch that draws blood, while Sota recalls how his father changed. The scene shifts back to the red glowing gate where Sota's father once stood alone. The narrator recounts how Sota's father was obsessed with the catacombs until his untimely death.
A close-up reveals the bloodied face of the man who died before Sota could speak.
The green-haired boy lies defeated as his classmate mocks his extreme weakness and inability to fight.
Takuto roughly hoists Sota up by his collar, preparing to lead him to a new location.
The blonde bully smirks, claiming he will train Sota since his parents are no longer capable.
A sharp, jagged visual effect signals a sudden shift in the atmosphere as tension rises. The group arrives at a massive, glowing green gate hidden within an ancient stone temple structure.
Sota realizes they have found an unregistered gate, which Takuto plans to use for their training.
Katora nervously voices his concern about the danger of entering such an unpredictable and mysterious place.
Takuto dismisses Katora's suggestion to report the gate, pressuring him to stay quiet and follow along.
He mocks their cowardice, reminding them of their past victories over more difficult and dangerous purple gates.
A sudden blast of energy erupts, startling Sota as a bright light flashes past his face. Sota stares in shock, a thin trail of blood running down his cheek from the near miss. Takuto threatens to target the hospital where Sota's mother stays if he continues to complain. Sota grits his teeth in silent fury, forced to endure the cruelty of his tormentor's threat. Overwhelmed by his circumstances, the boy hangs his head and mutters his reluctant agreement to proceed.
The gate opens wide and the boys step into the swirling green light of the catacomb entrance. Inside the dark cavern, Sota's cursed eyes perceive numerous purple, skull-like spirits floating in the air. Tears well in Sota's eyes as he admits to himself that he is still paralyzed by fear.
A small orange flame spirit flickers near a rock, dancing in front of the trembling young boy.
Sota lets out a terrified scream as the small spirit suddenly flares up and rushes toward him. Takuto kicks the cowering boy, mocking the son of a legendary sorcerer for being so pathetic.
The blonde bully expresses his utter disgust, telling Sota that he has no real reason to live.
A memory of Sota's father shows him standing coldly in a hospital room beside his sick wife. Takuto continues his verbal assault, cruelly suggesting that Sota should just die and join his father.
Sota weeps in frustration, feeling humiliated by the constant mockery from both the living and dead.
He believes the small flame spirit is also mocking him, further deepening his sense of worthlessness. A mysterious voice from the shadows questions Sota's interpretation of the orange flame spirit's intentions.
Sota looks up in confusion as the small spirit begins to glow with a more intense light.
The voice commands him to look more closely and listen carefully to what the spirit is saying.
A sudden, wet sound echoes as a sharp spike erupts through Takuto's chest from behind.
Takuto stares down at the bloody point protruding from his torso, his face contorted in sudden shock.
A massive monster impales him as he screams in pain, horrifying his friends who watch in terror.
A towering queen spider lifts the dying cocooned Takuto high into the air with its powerful limbs.
One of the boys identifies the creature as a high-level boss from a red difficulty catacomb gate.
The queen spider retreats into the darkness, dragging its prey away to serve as a host.
The mysterious voice describes the spider's gruesome behavior, leaving Sota frozen in absolute bone-chilling terror.
A swarm of smaller, glowing purple-eyed spiders emerges from the dark crevices to surround the group.
One of the boys lets out a final, piercing scream as the monsters prepare to attack them.
The gang flees in panic, leaving Sota alone as the spiders and spirits close in on him.
Sota sits helplessly on the ground, the long, spindly shadows of the monsters stretching toward him.
The spiders corner him, their many eyes glowing with a predatory hunger as they approach their prey.
Facing certain death, Sota reflects on his life and wonders if this is where his journey ends. He grits his teeth and refuses to accept his fate, a sudden spark of defiance igniting within.
The spectral voice encourages him to persevere, reminding him that he must not give up on life.
The voice instructs Sota to focus his senses and feel the power swirling in the air around.
A pillar of light descends from above, signaling that a hidden condition has finally been successfully met.
A system message confirms the awakening of a special skill known as Wandering Soul within the catacombs. The orange flame spirit transforms, expanding into a large humanoid shape made entirely of brilliant swirling fire.
The spectral figure of Sota's father emerges from the flames, reaching out a hand toward his son.
A massive purple spider lets out a piercing shriek as its many eyes glow with predatory light.
The giant spiders lunge through the dark air toward the boy surrounded by a pillar of fire.
Sota's hand reaches out to touch the spectral hand of his father, sealing their new connection.
A massive, blinding explosion of fire erupts, scattering debris and lighting up the dark cavern depths.
The green-haired student stands amidst the smoke and flames, his expression hardening as he prepares to fight.
A system message confirms the awakening of the Wandering Soul skill, which allows him to inherit skills.
Production credits and branding logos appear on screen, signaling a brief transition in the story.
Sota realizes he has inherited his father's flame skill and declares he has finally become a conqueror. The flame spirit warns Sota that it isn't the time to get emotional because the enemy is coming.
Sota shouts, "Whoa!" as he narrowly dodges a massive spider leaping from the rocky cavern walls.
Sota asks what he should do, but the spirit reminds him to look closely at his surroundings.
The spirit commands Sota to concentrate, and the boy's eyes begin to glow with a golden light.
Sota focuses his senses and notices the spider is about to spit something out, anticipating its move.
Sota shouts, "Look out!" as a blast of purple energy from the spider's mouth narrowly misses him.
Sota asks what that was, and the spirit explains that he saw the surge of its soul.
The spirit explains that power comes from the soul, and seeing it is a side effect of his skill.
A purple spider leg creeps across the stone floor, its movements sharp and menacing.
A voice warns that no matter how well Sota dodges, he will eventually get hit if he doesn't fight.
The spider lunges with a sharp shriek, but Sota counters with a fiery kick that sends sparks flying.
Sota's eye widens in surprise as he feels a sudden shift in his perception of the battle. A heavy thud echoes as Sota lands a solid blow on the monster with his newly awakened power.
Sota delivers a powerful flame-enhanced strike that impacts the spider with a massive ground-shaking burst of energy.
Sota realizes he understands how to fight as the spirit explains that his body now houses his father's soul.
The spirit confirms that combat techniques are shared, allowing the boy to fight with his father's master precision.
Sota thinks about his father's techniques as a spectral hand gently rests on his shoulder, guiding him.
The spectral figure of Sota's father stands behind him, their energies merging in a brilliant display of fire.
Sota tearfully agrees and says, "You're right, let's go, Dad," as they prepare to face the monsters together. A massive impact shakes the cavern as fire and shadow collide in a fierce struggle for survival.
Sota lands a devastating punch on the spider while the spirit alerts him to another incoming attack.
Sota leaps through the air, trailing a path of golden flames as he strikes at his enemies.
Using his special vision, Sota sees the monster's core and prepares to land a finishing blow.
A target lock appears over the spider's head as Sota focuses all his energy on its vital point.
Sota shouts, "That's the weak spot," as his glowing eyes identify the monster's fatal vulnerability during the fight.
The boy lunges forward, his hand wreathed in intense flames as he targets the purple spider below. Sota lands a powerful blow directly on the spider's head with a massive, echoing crack. Sota's eye focuses with intense determination as he shouts, "Take this!" and prepares a final blow.
The green-haired student stands victoriously as the defeated monster dissolves into smoke and embers behind him.
The massive spider collapses with a final heavy thump as the fiery energy consumes its remains completely. Sota prepares another flame-based attack, his concentration unwavering as the spectral voice continues to guide his movements.
An infernal flame skill activation message appears as Sota incinerates the remaining spiders with a firestorm.
A weary sigh escapes Sota as he finally finds a moment of peace after the intense battle.
Sota admits he managed to survive somehow as the flame spirit continues to linger by his side.
The spirit tells Sota, "Now commune with the soul and hear its regrets. If you resolve those regrets, you can inherit your old man's skill. That's the power of your wandering soul."
Sota asks how the spirit knows all this, but it tells him to focus on what's important.
The spirit explains that Sota was in a semi-awakened state, perceiving souls in an incomplete form until now.
The spirit explains that now that Sota has awakened a skill, he can even converse with souls.
A close-up reveals the gentle, smiling face of Sota's father as his spirit finally becomes clear.
The father greets his son with a warm, "Hey, it's been a while," and Sota tearfully whispers, "Dad, Sota."
The father places a hand on his son's shoulder and says, "I'm sorry," while a soft pat sobbing.
Sota's face contorts with grief as he yells, "Dad, why didn't you stay by Mom's side? Why did you push yourself so hard?"
Kiro reveals his true intention was saving Sota's mother, shocking the confused boy deeply. He explains her coma was caused by spider poison and he desperately needed fangs for an antidote.
Ever since she collapsed, the man searched relentlessly for a high-level red gate despite the danger. During a fight with the boss, a trap activated, leaving Sota horrified by his father's tragic fate.
The spirit reflects on his mistakes, wondering if a hidden weakness in his heart caused his failure. He tells Sota it's natural to be angry, but the boy firmly rejects that notion with intensity.
Sota stares at his father with a look of pure confusion, struggling to understand the man's perspective.
The boy asks why he suffered alone, reminding him that family should always face hardships together.
A quiet wish for communication lingers as the two souls remain together in the dark cavern.
Kiro looks at his son with a somber expression as he prepares to make his final exit.
Sota tearfully vows to save his mother and become a conqueror who surpasses his father's legendary legacy.
He pledges to become the strongest conqueror while his father smiles at his son's ambitious declaration.
The father embraces his son, expressing his deep love and pride before finally losing his lingering regrets.
He tells Sota to become stronger than anyone and entrusts him with his mother's future care.
A brilliant orb of light shines intensely, illuminating the dark depths of the quiet catacomb chamber.
Sota thanks his father as a notification confirms he has successfully resolved Keiichiro Sasaki's final regrets.
A system message confirms Sota has inherited the Radiant Flame skill, allowing him to manipulate fire.
The green-haired student watches in silence as the golden embers of his father's soul drift away. A single tear falls from Sota's eye as he processes the emotional weight of their final goodbye. The flame spirit admits it misjudged Sota, realizing he is far from being a pathetic weakling. Sota offers his gratitude, but the spirit brushes off the formality as it floats in the air. It insists there is no need for formal speech because they are no longer strangers after today.
Sota asks for the spirit's true identity, looking up with curiosity as the orange flame flickers.
The small orange spirit hesitates to answer, its body glowing as it considers the boy's direct question. It speaks in a heavily distorted, glitched language that Sota cannot comprehend despite his focused attention. Sota asks what was just said, but the spirit responds with its own confused sound of surprise. The flame continues to deliver its message through unreadable digital static while Sota watches the spectacle. A moment of awkward silence follows as the two characters stare blankly at one another. The spirit attempts to explain its situation again, but its voice remains buried under intense glitch effects. It manages to convey that it is Sota's age, but system restrictions prevent further personal revelations. The spirit compares its existence to a system bug, noting that there are limitations on their conversation. It tells Sota to call it whatever he wants, leaving the boy feeling even more confused.
The orange flame spirit jokingly requests that Sota chooses a name that sounds exceptionally cool.
Sota suggests the name Tamau, causing the spirit to instantly turn a dark, charred color from shock.
The spirit yells in outrage at the terrible name while hitting Sota as he defends his choice.
Tamau shifts the topic back to business, reminding Sota that he still has urgent work to complete.
The spirit asks if he has things to do, and Sota confirms his readiness with determined eyes.
A small smirk appears on the flame spirit as it praises Sota's newfound confident and resolute expression.
Tamau tells Sota to visit the catacombs anytime he needs as a portal begins to form nearby.
Sota walks toward a blinding light at the cavern's exit, leaving the dark underworld behind him.
A final parting promise from the spirit echoes through the shadows as the green-haired boy departs.
Outside the gate, 2 exhausted students collapse onto the ground after surviving the horrific monster encounter.
The beanie-wearing boy questions the boss's presence, while his friend admits he has no clear answers. A bright, pulsing green light erupts from the gate entrance, drawing the attention of the weary boys.
They look back in sudden horror as a strange and powerful energy begins to manifest from the structure.
Glowing golden rings appear around the gate's mechanical face, signaling a massive and unexpected system transformation. The beanie-wearing boy stares at the phenomenon with a look of pure shock and disbelief. A system message declares that the dungeon entrance has officially transformed into a dangerous, irregular gate.
The spiky-haired student shouts in terror as the gate continues its transformation right before his eyes. A diagram explains that ringed irregular gates jump to the highest possible difficulty rank.
The spiky-haired student realizes the green gate has transformed into a lethal red ramp.
Katora urges seeking help, but the bully fears reporting their illegal entry and assault.
The spiky-haired boy decides to blame the deceased Takuto for all their recent failures.
He suggests abandoning Sota, claiming the boy has no family to come looking for him.
The bully calls Sota trash just as a sharp zing resonates from the gate entrance.
Sota emerges from the glowing light, surprising the bully who was mid-insult.
Katora calls out Sota's name in relief as the green-haired student steps into the woods.
Trembling with shock, the spiky-haired student demands to know how Sota is still alive.
A quiet ping sounds as Sota's eye ignites with the power of the radiant flame.
The bully continues shouting while Sota perceives their souls as weak, flickering outlines.
Sota notes that their soul strength is insignificant compared to the monsters he just defeated. The spiky-haired boy accuses Sota of Takuto's death, enraged by his victim's newfound confidence. He convinces Katora that they should simply frame Sota for all the trouble.
The bully fabricates a story about Sota causing Takuto's death while recklessly hunting for skills.
The spiky-haired student declares that they will pin the entire disaster on Sota.
Sota sighs and asks the bully to wait because he needs to speak with Katora.
A quiet tisk sounding reflects the bully's growing rage as he glares at Sota. Screaming in fury, the spiky-haired student lunges forward with a heavy thump sounding.
Sota's gaze becomes razor-sharp as he tracks the bully's predictable and slow-motion attack.
A loud crack sounding echoes through the forest as Sota lands a solid, powerful punch.
The force of the strike sends the bully flying backward through the dark trees.
He hits the dirt with a messy thud and rolls several times before stopping.
Katora watches in stunned silence while smoke rises from Sota's smoldering empowered fist.
Katora realizes that Sota has awakened as a conqueror with truly incredible power.
The green-haired student stands calmly in the clearing, his golden eyes glowing with intensity.
A single thought echoes in Katora's mind regarding Sota's overwhelming and unexpected strength. Sota begins walking, his footsteps creating a quick tap sounding as he calls to Katora.
Sota wears a kind smile while asking Katora for a favor he hopes he'll grant.
Katora responds with a pale face and a nervous stutter, completely intimidated by Sota's presence.
They enter a dark area where purple energy tendrils creep along with a swish sounding. Katora warns that the situation is too dangerous and they must wait for official backup.
Sota walks through a puddle with a splash sounding, noting irregular gates have random destinations.
Clenching his fist, Sota vows to defeat the Queen Spider Boss before it's too late.
Katora is shocked by the plan as a fiery whoosh erupts from the shadows.
A mysterious voice warns that the suspicious boys won't be allowed to proceed.
A scarred man surrounded by fire appears, yelling that nothing happens on his watch.
The man with the pompadour hair glares intensely, his golden flames filling the cavern.
A powerful boom sounding shakes the cave as the scarred stranger manifests his combat aura.
Sota asks for the man's identity, but the stranger refuses to name himself to outsiders.
Sota denies being suspicious, but the man points to the unconscious student and illegal entry.
The stranger explains that an unreported gate and illegal exploration are grounds for an arrest.
The boys look nervous as the man declares he has enough evidence to detain them.
Sota pleads with the stranger to listen, but the man clenches his fists for battle.
The man shouts no questions asked and lunges forward with a sudden, fiery wham sounding.
A swift swoosh sounding follows as the scarred man delivers a kick that Sota dodges.
Sota's eye reflects the incoming strike, realizing he must fight this powerful new opponent. A sharp crack sounding resonates as the two powerful conquerors finally collide in the cavern.
The scarred man smirks with a low heh sounding, impressed by the young boy's skills.
A high-pitched ping sounds as Sota intensely analyzes the stranger's combat rhythm during their duel.
Toma reacts with shock to Sota's strength, deciding to escalate the fight as a golden aura erupts. A low vroom-sounding hums as the scarred man's eyes glow with an intense golden light.
The green spirit encourages the battle while Toma unleashes a massive fiery boom sounding across the cavern.
A colossal kaboom sounding shakes the earth while Katora watches the ongoing duel with a stunned silence.
Toma describes his Man of Steel ability to turn into metal, complaining that his own fists had.
Watching from the shadows, Katora realizes that a single hit from Sota's power would finish him off. Fleeing the scene, Katora calls for a tactical retreat while Sota looks back in complete and utter confusion.
Katora yells for them not to run away just as the fight reaches its most exciting part.
Sota's tension is palpable as a nervous gulp sound escapes him while he watches his friend flee.
A figure disappears into the dark dungeon depths as a sudden, sharp zip sounding echoes through the air.
Loose stones shift and slide with a gritty scritch sounding as movement occurs within the dark, rocky debris.
Toma stands in the open and demands a fair fight while Sota stays hidden behind a large rock.
Sudo worries that fighting barehanded won't work, but using fire might cause his opponent a serious injury.
The young student remains deep in thought, wondering what his next move should be in this difficult situation.
A green flame spirit appears, mentioning Toma and admitting that his face has always been incredibly annoying.
The spirit recalls their history and vows to win, prompting Sota to ask if they knew each other.
Shocked that Sota can see him, the green spirit points to himself while the boy calmly confirms it.
Tsukasa explains they never got along and decided to settle their rivalry one-on-one in a past encounter. The spirit admits he lost and died during a catacomb exploration before he could ever have a rematch.
Tsukasa expresses his extreme frustration at his fate, leading Sota to offer his help in resolving the matter.
Sota charges out of hiding with quick clack-sounding footsteps to confront the pompadour-haired man once more.
Toma stands with crossed arms, asking if the green-haired student is finally ready to commit to their duel.
Sota shouts Toma Igarashi's full name, catching the older student completely off guard with his direct declaration.
A small sounding escapes Toma as he reacts with genuine confusion at hearing his name spoken aloud.
Toma asks how Sota knows him as the boy lunges forward with a sudden, heavy wham-sounding strike. Sota offers a quick apology before unleashing his secret weapon against the steel-skinned opponent standing before him.
Suda yells lightning strike as green electricity surges into Toma with a powerful and blinding zap-sounding effect.
Toma's eyes widen in shock as the electrical energy bypasses his defense, followed by a startled sounding.
The scarred man collapses to the ground with a messy thud sounding, defeated by the boy's unexpected power.
The green spirit celebrates with a joyful yay sounding while Sota stands over his fallen rival in relief.
Tsukasa waves as he ascends into light, thanking Sota for helping him finally lose his lingering regrets. Suta reflects on differing regrets as a system message confirms his inheritance of the powerful lightning strike skill.
A familiar voice calls out to Sota as several quiet, top-sounding footsteps approach him in the dark.
Katora steps into the light, expressing his disbelief that Sota actually managed to defeat the powerful, scarred student.
Sota questions why his friend followed him, and Katora admits he needed to hear the boy's true intentions.
Looking away, Sota confesses that he brought Katora along because he specifically needed his unique Conqueror skill set.
Katora is revealed to be a poison master, a specialized role capable of manipulating various types of lethal toxins.
Sota explains that poison manipulation allows for the creation of antidotes, provided they can find the necessary materials.
A memory of Katora using medicine flashes by as Sota notes he is personally familiar with the skill.
Katora asks for his instructions, and Sota requests an antidote for his mother after defeating the Queen Spider.
Sota tells his friend he doesn't need to fight, but Katora insists on joining the dangerous battle anyway.
A dark pulse resonates with a vrr sounding as Katora begs Sota to save Takuto from his fate.
Katora admits his request is unfair, but explains that he only awakened his powers because of Takuto's influence.
Recalling Takuto's previous help, Katora clutches his head and admits he feels a deep debt toward the boy.
Sota bluntly refuses the request, leaving Katora shocked by his friend's cold and firm decision regarding their bully.
Sota declares he will never forgive Takuto and remains focused on his primary goal of slaying the Queen Spider.
Katora looks down in silence, visibly saddened by the realization that Sota's grudge against Takuto remains completely unshaken. Sota promises not to interfere with Katora's path as he walks away with a firm tap-sounding footstep.
Katora thanks his friend as Toma groans with a low sounding while waking up on the floor.
Toma yells in protest while Sota and Katora joke about his toughness, ending the conflict on a lighter note. Toma softens his stance after hearing Sota's motives, mentioning that the boy should have led with those reasons from the start, though Sota notes he was attacked without hesitation earlier.
The former opponent formally joins the group, identifying the duo as Sota and Kotora before offering to lend his significant strength to their current cause.
Sota hesitates to risk Toma's safety in such a dangerous area, but the older student insists on helping simply because he wants to be there.
A terrifying spider monster looms over the group from the shadows, making Sota realize they no longer have the luxury of trying to escape the cavern.
Toma hardens his fist and rallies the group with a shout, identifying the massive beast as the queen spider while preparing everyone for the incoming clash.
The massive queen spider prepares to strike the team as an oppressive purple energy fills the rocky chamber.
Kotora inquires about Toma's combat experience, and the pompadour-haired student reveals he has successfully taken down a powerful area boss within a purple gate before.
Despite his past victories, Toma admits facing a red gate boss represents a dangerous and entirely new level of difficulty for him to overcome.
Toma steps forward to act as the group's shield, but he is suddenly caught off guard as Sota sprints away with a quick clack-sounding footstep.
Confusion echoes through the dark chamber as Toma shouts after Sota, wondering what his companion could possibly be doing during the heat of battle.
Sota dodges between the queen spider's massive legs with a series of quick thump-sounding movements, navigating the gargantuan foe's dangerous reach.
Brilliant purple energy strikes the ground around the green-haired boy as he navigates the chaotic battlefield with a focused and intense gaze.
The Spider Queen unleashes a barrage of magical projectiles, yet Sota continues his relentless and daring charge through the cave with incredible agility.
Watching Sota's highly skilled movements, Toma begins to wonder if the younger boy has secretly conquered a high-tier red gate encounter before.
Doubts linger in Kotora's mind as he watches the fight, knowing it is impossible since Sota only recently awakened his powers as a conqueror. Toma is stunned by Sota's expert combat style, noting that such veteran prowess and tactical movements shouldn't be possible for someone who just started.
Sota's fist erupts in flames with a sudden whoosh sounding, revealing to a surprised Toma that the boy had been concealing his true elemental capabilities. Refusing to be outdone, Toma activates his signature Man of Steel ability and charges into the fray with a determined roar and a heavy thud sounding. Toma's powerful strike connects with the monster's leg, but he is horrified to find its armor remains completely unbroken by his metallic fists.
A shadow of dread falls over Toma as the queen spider looms closer, preparing a devastating follow-up attack that he realizes is going to be bad.
Sota intervenes with a sudden, electrifying roar, unleashing a blinding bolt of green lightning directly into the spider with a powerful zap-sounding effect. Despite the flashy lightning attack, Toma remains frustrated that the monster's natural defenses and outer skin seem nearly impossible to penetrate with their current strength.
Sota suggests a change in tactics involving his flame power, prompting a confused and skeptical response from Toma during the pause in combat.
Sota proposes a high-stakes plan to get close and incinerate the beast from point-blank range, while Toma works to draw its attention.
Embracing the danger, Toma grins at the crazy plan and prepares to go all out to give Sota the opening he needs to finish the fight.
Activating his ultimate form, Toma becomes a living statue of steel to endure the spider's relentless magical onslaught with a defiant, clang-sounding impact. Toma struggles to maintain his defense against the spider's strikes, urging Sota to strike quickly because his maximum power mode won't last much longer.
The monster opens its terrifying maw just as Sota signals his readiness to execute their risky gambit with a firm "got it."
Sota lunges forward with a fiery determination, his fist glowing with the intense heat of the radiant flame as he prepares the final blow.
The cavern illuminates as Sota delivers a direct, searing strike to the monster's vulnerable underside with an explosive and powerful kaboom-sounding force.
A guttural screech echoes through the cave as the massive queen spider recoils from the impact of Sota's relentless and burning flames. Although the spider retreats, Toma encourages a relentless pursuit, noting that Sota's fire is finally causing significant damage despite the creature's good reflexes.
The three boys sprint deeper into the darkness with a series of quick top-sounding footsteps, determined to finish the battle.
Kotora marvels at the teamwork while hoping for Takuto's safety, but his attention is suddenly caught by a strange object lying on the ground.
A solitary shoe lies discarded on the rocky floor with a gritty scritch sounding, halting Kotora's advance as a sense of dread sets in.
Kotora's heart sinks as he identifies the shoe, realizing with absolute certainty that their bully, Takuto, was indeed at this location recently.
A gruesome sight unfolds as the Spider Queen begins to feast on the remains of the helpless Takuto amidst horrific and blood-curdling screams.
Overcome by shock and fury, Kotora recklessly charges the monster with a sudden swoosh-sounding movement, only to be met by a swift counterattack. Kotora collapses to the ground as blood splatters across the dirt with a messy splot sounding, his desperate intervention ending in a tragic defeat.
A sudden cry of alarm rings out through the chamber as the situation spiraling out of control takes a deadly and unexpected turn.
Shards of a protective barrier or energy explode through the air with a loud crack sounding, signaling the total collapse of their current defense.
Blood gushes as a massive spider leg pierces through Toma's chest, shattering his steel armor and leaving him mortally wounded and completely shocked.
Sota screams in horror as Toma is lifted by the spider. An overwhelming force knocks Sota backward with a heavy thump sounding, throwing him helplessly across the uneven terrain of the dark battlefield.
Sota lies motionless in the dirt with a quiet gasp sounding while his companions call out his name in a state of complete desperation.
Before he can recover, thick strands of purple spider silk begin to bind Sota's body in a tight and restrictive magical cocoon.
The monster pulls Sota toward its gaping maw with a sudden swish sounding, unaware that the boy is secretly grateful for the forced proximity.
In a sudden explosion of heat and a fiery whoosh sounding, Sota incinerates the webbing and launches himself forward with a renewed vigor.
Toma watches in disbelief as Sota reveals he was faking being knocked out, delivering a precision strike directly into the spider's vulnerable face.
Sota uses a discarded shard of Katora's gear to pierce the monster's armor, prompting Toma to realize the boy had tactically picked it up earlier. Sota executes a powerful lightning strike, driving the shard into the monster's head with a crackling zap sounding. Toma is stunned by the electrical discharge as Sota prepares a finishing move with a glowing, fiery fist.
The cavern erupts as Sota unleashes infernal flame to incinerate the queen spider from the inside out with a whoosh sounding. Smoking and defeated, the massive spider collapses onto the rocky floor as the intense fire finally begins to fade.
The jagged spider shard is pulled from the monster's head with a sharp and sudden snap sounding. Holding the shard, Sota is relieved he can save his mother while his friends attend to the fallen Takuto.
Toma comforts a weeping Katora, suggesting they carry Takuto out to give their peer a proper and respectful burial.
Toma cheers Sota for his victory with a series of quick top-sounding footsteps as he approaches his companion. Sota thanks Toma for his vital help, though the older student simply insists he just did what he wanted.
A moment of reflection follows as Toma ponders the significance of Sota possessing multiple powerful and varied combat skills.
Toma admits that the lightning ability reminds him of an incredibly annoying person from his own past experiences.
Sota explains he learned lightning from a spirit named Goto and wants to visit the man's final resting place. Shock registers on Sota's face as Toma casually reveals that Goto is actually still alive and currently well.
Sota's disbelief grows as Toma mentions seeing Goto yesterday, followed by a dark and fragmented mental vision of blood.
Overwhelmed by a sudden stabbing pain, Sota collapses with a pained sounding as Toma rushes to help him. A mysterious notification in an oppressive red void announces that Sota has touched the deep foundation of this world.
Memories of a girl named Tamau flash by as Sota struggles against a disorienting and heavy mental burden.
Seated alone at a school desk, Sota questions the identity of the person lingering within his fragmented and blurry memories. The scene shifts abruptly as Kotora runs through the darkened cavern with a series of quick, thump-sounding footsteps.
A cryptic message echoes through Sota's mind, warning that his mother isn't the only one who needs to be saved. Stylized symbols pulse within a dark red energy field, reinforcing the mysterious warning regarding the boy's future path.
In the hospital, Toma questions if Goto really had such a face, while the bandaged Sota confirms the man's identity.
Toma wonders if Goto has an evil twin, but the messy-haired man yells that he is strictly an only child.
Toma remarks that Goto gives off a spoiled-only kid vibe despite having such a rough and intimidating facial appearance.
Goto yells at Toma for being rude and dragging him to the hospital, sparking a heated and loud verbal argument. Sota attempts to quiet his bickering friends, reminding them that they are currently inside a quiet and professional hospital ward.
Toma and Goto are instantly silenced as they stand awkwardly together in the middle of the crowded hospital hallway.
Goto inquires if the dangerous gate has been fully cleared now that they have successfully made their exit. Toma reassures everyone that the gate has calmed down following the boss's defeat, eliminating any further risk of invasion.
Sota gazes forward with a tired but grateful smile, acknowledging the successful completion of their perilous and deadly mission.
Sota walks away with quick, top-sounding footsteps, announcing his intention to go and check on Kotora's current condition.
Looking skeptical, Goto asks Toma if the younger boy really managed to defeat the powerful area boss by himself.
Toma confirms without a shred of doubt that Sota successfully took down a formidable red-tier gate boss alone. Goto reacts with total shock and disbelief upon learning that the defeated monster was actually a high-level red-tier threat. Toma praises Sota's unique ability to inherit skills from wandering souls, calling it an incredibly impressive and powerful ability.
A cryptic thought bubble suggests that there is even more to Sota's potential than just his remarkable skill inheritance.
A vision of Sota's battle intensity flashes by as Toma notes the boy is exceptionally quick-thinking and very gutsy.
Wearing a knowing grin, Toma concludes that the young student might truly be the real deal in the world. Goto asks if Toma plans to scout Sota, and the older student confirms his serious interest with a grin.
Toma mentions he has a favor to ask Goto as they continue their intense conversation in the hospital hallway.
Goto looks suspiciously at Toma as the shirtless boy begins to explain the nature of his secret request. A jagged speech bubble conveys Goto's sense of utter disbelief regarding the favor Toma is currently asking of him.
Hospital staff and patients are startled by a sudden, loud outburst echoing through the long and normally quiet corridor.
The scene transitions to a clear and peaceful blue sky, signaling the passage of time or a peaceful shift. Outside, Katora uses a purple glow to analyze the spider shard as Sota approaches him with a steady gait.
Katora reports that he is nearly finished analyzing the poison while asking Sota if he is currently feeling okay. Katora is relieved that his friend is fine, admitting he was worried after Sota's sudden collapse earlier that day.
Sota thanks Katora for carrying him outside, mentioning that Toma told him everything after he finally woke up.
Smiling humbly, Katora downplays his help by stating he was simply the one who was the least injured.
Katora apologizes for feeling like a burden, but Sota warmly reassures his friend that he has nothing to worry about.
Kiro explains how seeing someone important makes your heart tremble, a feeling he knows too well.
Sota looks down thoughtfully as he reflects on his parents and his current difficult situation.
Katora admits his hatred for Takuto, but refuses to dismiss the feelings of those who care.
Katora's mouth is visible as he quietly admits that he cannot compete with such deep feelings. Sota is confused by the sudden comment, but Katora quickly brushes it off as nothing important.
Katora announces he has finished the analysis, revealing his poison master skill as he holds the vial.
A small glass bottle filled with a glowing green liquid stands ready to be used as medicine.
Katora hands the antidote over, urging Sota to go and give it to his mother immediately.
Sota thanks his friend and runs off, shouting that he can finally save his mother.
Sota's mother lies unconscious in a hospital bed, her condition remaining stable but critical.
Sota stands by her bedside with a determined look, ready to administer the antidote at last. The green antidote is poured into the woman's mouth with a sudden and light swish sounding.
Sota's mother swallows the medicine with a quiet gulp sounding, her throat moving slightly.
A brilliant green aura envelops her body as the medicinal power begins its healing process.
Her eyes slowly flutter open, meeting Sota's gaze as she returns to consciousness.
Tears stream down Sota's face as he calls out to her in a state of pure joy.
She reaches out to touch his face, gently remarking on how much he has grown.
Overwhelmed with emotion, Sota smiles through his tears as his mother expresses her relief and happiness.
She confirms her reality as she continues to hold her son's cheek with a tender touch. Through the hospital window, the mother sits up and mentions something about his father. Crying softly, she wonders what her husband was thinking during those moments in the past.
Sota explains that saving her was his father's final wish and that he entrusted it to him. Flames erupt around Sota as he realizes he has inherited both his father's feelings and power.
Recognizing the familiar heat, the woman identifies the power as Kiichiro's unique flames.
She gazes at her son and asks what his plans are for the future now.
She repeats her question, noting that he has already granted his father's wish by saving her.
Sota declares with intense resolve that he will become the strongest conqueror who saves everyone.
The hospital room falls silent as the weight of Sota's ambition hangs in the quiet air. Sota asks his mother if she is truly okay with his decision to keep fighting.
She startles him with a sudden startle sounding, stating firmly that she is against his choice.
She confesses that the mere thought of him being in danger makes her heart feel broken. She clutches her robes with a firm squeeze sounding, showing her deep maternal fear and anxiety.
She admits that she and his father forced their own heavy feelings and expectations onto him.
Smiling sadly, she notes that it wouldn't be fair if she didn't endure this fear too.
Sota is relieved by her words, his expression softening as he feels her support.
She warns him that his vow to protect everyone must also include his own life.
She smiles warmly while tearing up, begging him not to die because she couldn't bear.
Looking down with a soft smile, Sota promises his mother that he will stay safe.
The mother and son share a long, meaningful hug in the brightly lit hospital room. Sota exits the room, closing the door behind him with a sharp click sounding.
He finds Toma and Katora waiting outside, realizing they were listening with a series of quiet sobs. Toma apologizes for eavesdropping while Sota reassures him that it is perfectly fine.
Katora brings up the legal trouble of entering the catacomb without permission from the association.
Katora wonders aloud what the association will say about their unauthorized and dangerous mission.
Toma confidently rubs his head, claiming his team will find a way to handle the situation.
Toma invites Sota to join his team, mentioning he has already spoken with his colleagues about it.
Sota is shocked by the offer, asking Toma if he really wants him as a teammate.
Toma smirks with a competitive glint, noting they have finally recruited that guy who is the strongest.
A massive, glowing gate stands in the distance, radiating a strange and powerful golden energy.
Elsewhere, two men walk through a field of dead monsters, discussing Toma's unusual behavior.
The silver-haired man stares into the glowing blue light, admitting he has become curious.
He turns with a bright, enthusiastic smile, his silver hair reflecting the surrounding light. A production credit screen confirms the creative team behind the series' latest installment.
The Scanlation team announces they are recruiting staff to assist with future chapter releases.
Silhouettes represent a team, defined as a group officially registered with the Conqueror Association. Warriors engage a giant insect monster, fulfilling their duty to conquer catacombs and bosses.
The scene shifts as the title card marks the beginning of the 7th chapter.
The pompadour-haired boy named Toma boasts that he is a member of the strongest team, Tenro.
The boy in the blue beanie notes that Tenro is one of the world's top teams.
Kotora continues explaining that their team's reputation extends far beyond just the borders of Japan.
A diagram illustrates the organization's structure, led by a supreme commander and 10 specialized squads. Toma slaps his teammate's shoulder, confirming the accuracy of the team's hierarchy and status.
He praises Kotora for being well-informed while giving an enthusiastic thumbs up to his friend.
Kotora mentions that Takuto admired them and worked tirelessly without ever joining an official team.
Toma listens as his friend reflects on their comrade's solitary and determined path to power. Sota mentions he knows that the Supreme Commander's official name is Yamato Sumeragi.
He describes Yamato as a legendary hero who solved countless world-shaking incidents throughout history.
Sota swallows hard, clearly overwhelmed by the prospect of meeting such a legendary warrior person. Toma asks if he is nervous, but Sota denies it while thanking him for this opportunity.
Toma laughs and points at Sota, praising the green-haired student for having impressive guts.
A transition shot shows a peaceful, clear blue sky filled with soft white clouds.
Arriving at their destination, Toma holds his head and announces they have reached their base entrance.
Sota is surprised to see their official headquarters is located inside a traditional Japanese house.
Toma invites them to watch closely as he prepares to open the wooden sliding door. A sudden, sharp sliding sounding, the wooden door is pulled open to reveal the interior. A sudden, loud whoa sounding, the trio enters a massive, brightly lit hall filled with energy. Suda watches the windows, wondering if the strange environment is caused by some hidden skill.
Toma begins to remark how awesome their base is as they walk through the corridor.
He turns back with a proud grin and gives the new recruits a confident thumbs up.
A sudden, sharp gah sounding, a heavy hand suddenly slams down on Toma's head.
Yusei scolds Toma for exploring a catacomb alone and dumping the explanation on the team.
Toma pleads with his big brother, claiming he received proper permission from Yamato beforehand.
A sudden, sharp howl sounding, Yusei ignores the excuse and crushes Toma's head in his fist.
Yusei accuses Toma of shoving all his paperwork onto a member of the second squad.
Toma realizes that Goto snitched on him while Yusei lectures him about taking responsibility.
Kotora awkwardly suggests that the punishment is enough as Yusei continues to scold his brother.
Yusei introduces himself to Sota and Kotora as the Vice Supreme Commander of the Tenro team.
A sudden, quiet thud sounding, the brown-haired man bows deeply to apologize for his brother.
Kotora waves his hands frantically, insisting that Toma was actually very helpful during their mission.
A figure approaches from behind, noting that Yusei is always far too hard on Toma.
Yamato Sumeragi appears with a kind smile, suggesting that Yusei should cut him some slack.
Sota stares in shock, realizing that the silver-haired person is the legendary commander himself.
Sota reflects that Yamato looks much more normal and delicate than he had previously imagined.
A sudden, sharp flare sounding, Sota's eye glows with golden fire as he activates his sight.
Sota senses that Yusei is stronger than Toma, but Yamato still appears like a regular person.
The green-haired student wonders if the legendary commander might actually be weaker than his subordinates.
Yamato turns his head with a calm and knowing expression, sensing the boy's intense gaze.
A sudden, heavy slap sounding, Yamato grabs Sota's shoulder and expresses his desire to meet him.
He praises Sota's incredible wandering soul ability, while the student finds him surprisingly easygoing.
Yamato looks Sota directly in the eyes and asks if he wants to become the strongest.
Smiling broadly, the silver-haired Yamato asks the boy if he wants to see the strongest power.
Suda stares back with a gaze filled with intense and unwavering determination.
Looking desperate and resolved, the young student begs his mentor to show him that strength.
Goto looks at his companions as a sudden worried "hey" escapes his lips.
Goto calls out to Yamato, who dismisses the worry by claiming he will hold back.
Pointing at the student, Yamato notes with a grin that the boy is clearly fired up. Goto promises to stop the fight if it becomes dangerous, while Yamato offers a quick thanks. The student takes a firm step forward, his arrival marked by a sudden, quick tap sounding.
Yamato leads the way down the long hall, suggesting they head into the specialized training room. The training room environment hums with a strange and high-tech digital energy. Glowing particles and light trails fill the air as the advanced facility fully activates.
Suda stands alone in the center of the vast glowing white training arena.
Feeling the immense pressure of the situation, the boy gives a nervous and hesitant, okay.
Yamato raises a fist, warning Sota to guard because he is going to strike from the left.
Suda's eyes glow with fire as he warns himself not to let his guard down for skills.
Despite seeing no visible changes yet, a massive burst of golden energy erupts from Yamato's fist.
Startled by the incredible speed, Sota is caught off guard as Yamato closes the distance instantly.
A violent impact throws the boy backward through the air with a sudden, deafening boom sounding.
The sheer force of the blow leaves a trail of destructive power across the training floor.
Suda skids across the room as the shockwave of the powerful strike continues to resonate.
Toma and the others watch in terror as they shout out the young boy's name.
Sota realizes it felt like an explosion as he checks if his arm is still attached.
Yamato approaches through the smoke as Sota realizes his opponent's very soul is the weapon.
Smiling with genuine excitement, Yamato asks the fallen student if he wants to keep going.
Sota reflects on the terrifying reality of facing a pure and massive lump of raw energy.
Ignoring the pain and the danger, the young boy eagerly accepts the challenge to continue. Engulfed in a sudden burst of flames, the boy prepares to fight back with everything.
He launches himself forward into the fray with a sudden sharp tap sounding.
Yamato moves with predatory grace, preparing to meet the boy's fiery and desperate counterattack.
Yamato lets out a surprised "oh" as the boy manages to keep up with his movements.
Yamato warns that another hit will finish him, urging him not to rely only on sight.
Sota focuses intensely, reminding himself to feel the battle with every single cell in his body.
The realization hits that the world's strongest power is standing directly in front of him.
Yamato delivers a heavy punch as the boy begs to see even more of his power.
Yamato's eyes glow a fierce red as he shouts that he is finally getting pumped up.
The two exchange a blur of high-speed blows while Toma and his friend watch in awe.
Goto sighs at Yamato's antics, calling him an idiot for getting so into the training match.
Toma watches silently, amazed that the young student is actually keeping up with Yamato's overwhelming speed.
The black-haired boy watches in total disbelief, unable to comprehend the level of the fight.
Toma thinks that bringing the boy here might have been a much bigger win than expected. Intense flames swirl around the student's clenched fist as he prepares a final, massive move.
Sota addresses Yamato, asking if he is allowed to use his skill at its full power.
Yamato laughs while calling the boy So-chan, a nickname that leaves the student momentarily confused.
Yamato dismisses the question as pointless, reminding the boy he promised to show him true strength.
With a competitive and dangerous glint in his eye, the silver-haired fighter tells him to bring it. Accepting the invitation with a loud scream, the boy ignites his power to its absolute limit.
A massive pillar of fire erupts as Sota prepares to unleash the legendary Hellfire skill.
Yamato watches with calm interest as the boy launches a giant sphere of spiraling flames.
The older student is impressed by the raw power and the intensity of the incoming skill.
Yamato smiles, recognizing the legendary flame power that once belonged to the strongest sorcerer, Keiichiro Sasaki. Intense flames erupt from a hand before Yamato stands engulfed in a massive fiery aura.
Sota pants heavily while asking his mentor how he liked that display of power.
Yamato remarks with a grin that the boy really went all in on that last move.
Yamato walks forward through the fire, stating that he likes the young student even more now.
A weary but genuine smile spreads across Sota's face as he catches his breath.
Yamato raises a glowing fist, announcing that he can shift up into another gear for training.
The air is suddenly filled with the loud and piercing wail of several siren sounds. A red emergency alert appears on a screen, warning everyone that an external incursion has been detected.
The notification specifies a massive outbreak in Sakurazawa town, leaving Sota stunned by the sudden news.
Yamato sighs with disappointment, complaining that the interruption happened just when the fight was getting good.
Yamato explains that monsters spill into the world when raid teams fail to defeat gate bosses.
Yamato calls out to Yusei, demanding to know which squads are currently available to deploy. Holding a glowing holographic tablet, Yusei reports that the 1st, 2nd, and 5th squads are ready.
Yamato orders the 1st and 2nd squads to hold the outskirts and contain the enemy advance.
Yamato directs Yusei and Toma to lead their members toward the target gate immediately.
Yamato tells Sota that he will head straight into town to eliminate the monsters that escaped.
Sota asks to join the fight, and Yamato agrees while warning him not to fall behind.
Yamato orders Katora to come along as well to provide backup and watch Sota's back.
Yamato shouts for everyone to move out, commanding his team not to let anyone die.
The title screen appears against a white background, signaling the start of the 8th chapter.
Yamato leads the way down the street with a sudden quick zip sounding as Sota follows.
Katora struggles to keep up, gasping for air as the two fighters pull far ahead.
Amazed by Yamato's incredible speed, Katora wonders how he can move so effortlessly through the city.
Sota realizes that entering a real battle right after their training match was incredibly reckless.
A violent explosion sends green slime flying as Yamato lands a heavy blow on the monsters.
Amidst the chaos of battle, Yamato casts a quick glance back toward his lagging student.
Yamato notes that Sota is reaching his limit as the boy stumbles through the wreckage. Accelerating ahead, the silver-haired man wonders if he might have expected too much from the boy.
Sota collapses onto the hard pavement with a sudden pained sounding as his strength fails.
Katora rushes to his side, shouting Sota's name and asking if he is okay.
Sota grits his teeth in frustration, his gaze fixed on the road ahead despite his exhaustion.
Looking into the distance, Sota feels that Yamato's level of strength is still painfully far away.
Katora thinks the situation is insane and believes they should leave the fighting to the professionals.
Katora reaches out to his friend as the brown-haired boy struggles to stand up again.
Katora asks why he is pushing himself when they can just let the silver-haired man handle it.
Sota reflects on how he used his lack of power as an excuse to keep running away.
Sota declares that for the first time he chose his own path to become the strongest.
Yamato continues to decimate the monsters as Sota vows to finally catch up to his strength.
Kotora stares down at a small glass vial in his hand with a look of deep concern.
Activating his Poison Master skill, Kotora makes the vial glow with a sudden, bright gleam sounding.
Kotora tosses the glowing medicine toward his friend, catching the exhausted student completely by surprise.
The perspective shifts toward the ground as the two friends stand together in the silent street.
Kotora explains that the potion draws out latent potential and provides a temporary boost to physical abilities.
Sota gazes at the vial while his friend warns him about the potentially dangerous side effects.
Yamato searches the area, noticing that the main gate boss is not among the smaller enemies.
Yusei informs Yamato over the phone that the boss monster is already outside and roaming town.
Yamato acknowledges the report and tells him to ensure no more monsters emerge from the portal.
A massive heavy ogre boss looms over Yamato, casting a long shadow across the empty street.
Yamato prepares to attack, but Sota suddenly lunges forward with a punch engulfed in legendary flames.
Kotora watches from afar as a massive pillar of fire illuminates the buildings of the town.
Kotora looks down with a smile, playfully tossing a vial into the air while sighing.
Catching the potion, Sota drinks it instantly as Kotora watches with wide, shocked eyes. Kotora scolds Sota for drinking it recklessly, but the boy ignites with power and charges.
The empty glass vial falls to the pavement with a sudden, sharp clink sounding.
Kotora looks on with concern, silently wishing for his friend to do his absolute best.
The boy in the beanie watches Sota with a proud and knowing grin on his face.
A massive impact shakes the ground as the silver-haired mentor stands back and observes.
Yamato watches the fight with a satisfied smile, complimenting the young student's impressive performance.
The massive heavy ogre bellows a challenge while surrounded by swirling smoke and debris.
Engulfed in flames, Sota vows to never give up, regardless of the gap in power.
With eyes glowing amber, the student declares his determination to catch up to his mentor.
Yamato prepares to enter the fray as the beast roars and fire consumes the area. The silver-haired man watches intently as the young student focuses his fiery aura for battle. Yamato identifies the monster as the boss of the gate where the emergency hazard began.
Yamato explains that escaping enemies persist even if the boss dies, requiring a total victory.
The mentor asks Sota if he can handle the powerful red gate boss alone.
Sota accepts the mission with a loud and confident shout while flames dance around him.
Smiling warmly, Yamato agrees to trust him briefly before finishing his own tasks quickly. Yamato bids farewell and disappears instantly, leaving the student bewildered by his incredible speed.
The monstrous ogre stands as a looming threat in the middle of the empty street.
Staring into the distance, Sota reflects on how far away his mentor's level truly remains.
Shaking off his doubts, the student focuses entirely on the dangerous monster standing before him.
The heavy ogre grips its massive club, preparing a devastating strike against the lone fighter.
With a sudden heavy thud sounding, the beast slams its club down toward the student.
Sota analyzes the monster's high defense, planning to stagger it with fire at close range.
The boy unleashes a massive explosion of flames, striking the giant monster with full power.
The smoke clears to reveal the monster's furious face, seemingly unharmed by the fiery blast.
Crashing into a wall, a bloody Sota realizes his strongest attack failed to leave a scratch.
Panic sets in as the student realizes the massive monster is completely resistant to fire.
The heavy ogre continues its relentless advance, casting a terrifying shadow over the fallen boy.
Sota desperately considers his options, knowing his lightning skill only provides a temporary stun.
Facing the looming threat, the sweating boy wonders what he can possibly do to survive.
A sudden realization hits the boy as his eyes glow with a new sense of purpose.
Intense flames erupt around the student once again as the monster watches with visible confusion. A memory of a floating flame appears, warning him not to rely solely on inherited skills.
The spirit explains that fire is a poor match against certain enemies, despite its power.
The spirit scolds the boy for his past incompetence, warning him not to become recklessly cocky.
To ensure his survival, the spirit offers to teach him a secret and lethal technique.
The spirit calls it a powerful move, though Sota remains skeptical of his own ability.
The spirit explains that only those who grasp the soul's truth can use this legendary move.
The secret technique involves focusing all of one's aura into a single, devastating physical strike.
Sota argues that he already fights with everything, but the spirit clarifies the true meaning.
Controlling the flow of aura through the body allows a fighter to unleash incredible, concentrated power. The spirit warns that while the move is powerful, it requires impossible concentration during battle.
The boy looks weary as the spirit admits the technique is mostly for emergency situations.
A final warning echoes in the boy's mind, advising him to run from dangerous opponents.
The dark void remains silent as the secret name of the lethal move is finally revealed.
Returning to the present, Sota finds a strange calm as he faces the massive monster.
The student realizes that his training with Yamato has sharpened his focus to an elite level.
The ogre charges as Sota prepares to test his limits in his current empowered state.
Sota lunges toward the massive monster, shouting that he can finally see an opening to strike.
Enveloped in roaring flames, the boy leaps high into the air as the beast prepares its club.
The heavy ogre's face is illuminated by the intense golden aura radiating from the student's empowered state.
Reaching the monster's head, Sota places his hand firmly against it to prepare his final move.
With eyes glowing a fierce amber, the boy focuses his aura as lightning crackles around his form.
Shouting the name of his skill, Sota unleashes a surge of green lightning to paralyze the beast.
The massive ogre bellows in pain, its body convulsing as the electrical discharge takes full effect.
Sota glares at his opponent with absolute focus, his body burning with an intense and fiery determination.
The student clenches his fist tightly, channeling every ounce of his concentrated aura into a single point.
A massive impact shakes the street as the boy's fist connects, sending a shockwave through the air.
Sota unleashes the Soulquake impact, a devastating blow that sends the giant monster tumbling backward through smoke.
Standing amidst the rubble, the boy watches as the defeated ogre crashes into a distant building wall.
The monster remains pinned under the wreckage, its body still smoldering from the heat of the attack.
Sota looks down at his glowing fist, his body trembling slightly from the immense exertion of the fight.
The boy smiles weakly, wondering if he managed to close the gap to his mentor even slightly.
Suddenly, his expression shifts to one of pure shock as his strength vanishes without any warning at all.
Sota's vision swims as he realizes the potion's side effects are finally taking a heavy toll.
In a brief memory, the boy recalls the warning about the dangerous properties of the medicine he drank. Frustrated and pained, Sota realizes that he is now completely helpless as the intense exhaustion takes over.
Several smaller ogres emerge from the darkness of the street, slowly surrounding the fallen and weakened boy.
The monsters loom over their prey, sensing that the fighter has no strength left to resist them. Sota grunts in pain, pinned to the pavement by his own fatigue while the enemies close in.
Desperate to survive, the boy reflects on his determination and refuses to die in such a place.
A formal credit screen appears, acknowledging the creators and producers responsible for the series' ongoing story.
A detailed list of supporters and staff members is displayed, highlighting the collective effort behind the chapter.
A massive skyscraper towers into the cloudy sky, casting a long shadow over the ruins of the city.
A woman with short silver hair looks up at the building, commenting on its incredibly tall height.
Smiling to herself, the silver-haired woman notes that the skyscraper serves as a perfect marker for her.
With a sudden heavy thud sounding, the woman pushes off the roof and leaps into the air.
The silver-haired woman falls through the sky with a focused expression, her coat flopping wildly in the wind.
Looking down at the sprawl of the city, she marvels at the amazing view from her position. Landing gracefully on another rooftop, the woman continues her rapid and effortless advance through the urban landscape.
Pulling out a silver flip phone, she asks if the other squads are ready to begin their operation. A man on the ground reports that the first and second squads have successfully contained the monsters.
Acknowledging the report with a quick thanks, the woman prepares to join the battle from the rooftops.
The silver-haired woman declares that it is time to get started with a serious and determined look.
A massive explosion of blue energy erupts around the woman, signifying the activation of her formidable power. Electricity crackles around her feet as she channels an immense amount of mana for her next technique.
A massive pillar of blue light shoots into the sky, dwarfing the skyscraper with its incredible energy. The blue aura ripples through the city streets, illuminating the darkness and signaling a powerful intervention.
Sota looks on in shock, completely paralyzed as he watches the massive display of power from afar.
Exhausted and battered, the boy wonders what kind of incredible force could cause such an event.
Sota refuses to surrender, struggling to stay conscious while the swirling blue energy fills his entire vision.
A group of ogres raises their weapons to strike the boy, completely unaware of the approaching danger.
Sota watches in bewilderment as a glowing blue light suddenly envelops the monsters surrounding his fallen body.
The boy's eyes go wide with shock as he realizes that the objects are electrified blue hatchets.
A wide view shows the entire city block being engulfed in a massive storm of blue lightning.
The silver-haired woman smiles as she activates her Dominion skill, raining destruction down upon the enemy horde.
Unleashing the punishment, Demon Thunderquake, the woman obliterates the monsters with a barrage of electrified strikes.
The ogres are instantly vaporized by the blue lightning as the boy watches the spectacular display of strength.
Sota watches in awe as blue lightning devastates the ogres, threatening his life.
Walking through the smoldering remains, the silver-haired woman surveys the destruction she caused.
Staring blankly, the exhausted student is overwhelmed by the massive display of elite power.
A sudden quick thud sounding, Sota turns to find his mentor standing right behind him. He notes with surprise that her clothes and form didn't receive a single scratch.
A realization strikes the boy as he contemplates the meaning behind the mentor's incredible skill. Reflecting on the attack, Sota realizes his mentor flooded the entire city with massive aura.
He marvels that the destruction was precisely limited to the monsters despite the area scale.
Stepping past the fallen beasts, the mentor approaches her student with a calm stride.
Sota lets out a weak laugh, his body finally reaching its absolute breaking point.
Smiling warmly, Yamato waves and praises her student for his successful and hard work.
The boy collapses forward from exhaustion, falling safely into the silver-haired woman's arms. Yamato's expression shifts to surprise as she catches the unconscious and battered young student.
Analyzing the smoldering wreckage, Yamato realizes Sota defeated the boss before her own strike landed.
Sota sleeps soundly against his mentor, the weight of the battle finally lifting away. Looking down at the sleeping boy, the silver-haired woman finds him to be seriously interesting.
Noticing a group approaching, Yamato turns her attention toward the newly arrived squad members.
Captain Kakeru Amami and Vice Captain Karin Soaragi arrive at the scene of the battle. Kakeru warns that flooding the city with aura will surely lead to association complaints.
Yamato tasks Kakeru with handling the bureaucratic fallout while he groans about the association's lectures.
Cradling the boys, she explains she was just putting on a show to scout recruits.
The captain stares at the student, questioning if he is the specific new recruit mentioned.
Yamato laughs while officially assigning the boy to the first squad under the captain's care. Kakeru agrees to take him, admitting he was going to ask for the boy anyway.
In a sunlit hospital room, a brown-haired woman spends her day reading a book quietly.
The woman smiles at a family photo, reflecting on her duty to raise the kid. Kakeru looks serious, confirming that fulfilling his duty toward the boy is his priority.
A promotional screen highlights recruitment needs and expresses gratitude to the project's dedicated financial supporters.
A formal title card marks the beginning of the 11th chapter of the ongoing series. Inside the Tenro headquarters training facility, various fighters hone their skills in open combat.
Sota stands ready to spar against a scarred, pompadoured man in the wide training hall.
The pompadoured man glares with intense golden eyes, focusing his aura for the spar.
A massive explosion of golden energy erupts as the scarred fighter activates his powerful transformation.
With his skin turned metallic, the pompadoured fighter challenges the boy to strike him.
Sota accepts the challenge, deciding to test his Soulquake impact technique against the armored opponent.
Suddenly, the man lunges forward, shouting that enemies will never wait for a big attack.
With a sudden quick poke sounding, the man strikes the boy's forehead, causing him pain. The scarred man warns that large, powerful moves leave dangerous openings if not Sota.
Sota recalls his time in the hospital, recovering from the medicine's intense and painful side effects.
The man suggests the boy's exhaustion was likely a backlash from the Soulquake impact technique. Crossing his arms, the fighter explains that the boy still requires much more training.
A sudden, sharp footsteps sounding, a voice interrupts their conversation to demand more focus.
Vice Captain Karin Soaragi arrives, sternly telling the two fighters to take their training seriously. The pompadoured man groans in annoyance at Karin's arrival, looking visibly frustrated and pained.
Sota whispers to his partner, wondering who the authoritative and stern girl truly is.
Karin Soaragi introduces herself as Vice Captain, warning the boy not to act so familiar. The scarred man shouts at Karin to show respect to her elders during their argument.
Karin threatens to report the shirtless fighter for harassment while Sota marvels at her talent.
Karin glares at the scarred man, ignoring his outburst with a cold and focused expression. Sota introduces himself politely, acknowledging his new assignment to the first squad starting today.
Karin mocks the boy for riding his famous parents' coattails to achieve his recent boss victory.
In the training gym, the girl notes he used that background to get in with Yamato.
She wonders why the captain would prioritize such an unremarkable guy for recruitment duty.
Reacting with a sudden, angry shout, the scarred pompadoured man glares with intense frustration.
A sudden, sharp exclamation sounding, the boy steps between the two fighters to halt their brewing argument.
Looking directly at Karin, the student calmly acknowledges that her harsh assessment is entirely correct.
Sota credits his father for his ability to fight, leaving the girl questioning his lack of anger. While Yamato found his skill interesting, he admits that alone is not enough to prove worth.
Bowing his head humbly, the boy asks the vice captain for her guidance and training during their session.
Karin is thrown off by his humble attitude, noting that normal people would have gotten angry.
Karin accepts the boy's request for training despite his poor attitude, while the scarred fighter and the student look on in surprise.
Looking up with a determined gaze, the girl requests a stage setting change for the simulation.
A sudden digital shimmering sounding, a green energy field overwrites the training hall's metallic floor. The holographic transition continues, shifting the visual data of the training area into a natural setting.
With a sudden, amazed whoa sounding, the boy watches as the virtual environment becomes a field.
A wide view shows a lush green landscape under a bright sun, ready for their spar. Karin explains that the simulation allows skills, mockingly offering a no-skills match if the student feels scared.
When the boy chooses a no-skills match, the girl scoffs at his perceived weakness while closing her eyes in annoyance.
A sudden, sharp smirk appearing, Karin thinks she would feel bad about hurting him during skills.
Pointing aggressively at the boy, Karin blames him for what's about to happen as she gets visibly angry and shouts about his attitude.
A stylized notification appears, declaring that the only rule for this match is anything goes.
Dropping into a stance, Karin warns the boy that he is the one going together.
Activating the Rage of Gaia technique, her hand glows with pink energy striking the ground. With a sudden heavy rumble sounding, massive pillars of earth erupt to trap the boy. The student looks on in shock as the jagged walls of rock close in.
A massive sphere of solid stone forms in the arena, successfully capturing the student fighter.
Karen stands over the Earth sphere, asking what he plans to do now that he is completely trapped.
The brown-haired girl mocks him, suggesting she might let him out if he cries and apologizes.
A sudden, intense roar sounding, fire and light explode from the center of the Earth sphere. The stone prison is obliterated in a massive pillar of flame, freeing the boy.
Walking calmly through the fire, the boy thanks her for making the walls soft while noting it is poor training.
Visibly enraged by his nonchalance, the vice captain grinds her teeth and prepares to strike him again.
Shouting for him not to mock her, Corinne strikes the ground with energy to create a glowing pink pit.
With a sudden, triumphal shout sounding, the girl lunges through the air to deliver a finishing blow to him.
Captain Kakeru Amami suddenly intervenes, shouting for both fighters to stop as he realizes they are taking the training too far.
An abstract burst of red energy fills the screen, signifying the captain's swift and overwhelming intervention.
Fragments of debris and energy fly through the air as the captain's force disrupts the arena.
With a sudden apologetic oops sounding, Kakeru catches both students mid-strike, holding their hands to end the duel.
A sudden, powerful rush sounding, the captain tosses both fighters away, causing them to tumble across the grass.
Landing on the ground, the boy marvels at the captain's speed while the black-haired man tells them to cool down.
A detailed view of the captain's uniform shows the intricate textures of his high-ranking tactical gear.
Dropping to their knees, both students look up as the boy frantically tries to explain the fight to the captain.
Introducing himself as Captain Kakeru Amami, the black-haired man offers a friendly greeting to the recruit.
Caught off guard by his superior's presence, the boy stammers a nervous response to the captain. Noting their high energy levels, Kakeru ignores Corinne's denials and decides that they are both ready for deployment.
Both students react with pure shock as the captain commands them to prepare for immediate deployment.
A massive portal door vibrates with energy, signifying their departure for a new exploration mission.
Walking through a quiet residential neighborhood, the trio begins their search for the mission's target. Checking his smartphone for navigation, the boy notes that the objective should be located nearby. Karen complains that she dislikes residential areas because all the buildings look identical to her. The black-haired man notes they found the target quickly, expressing relief about avoiding mass damage. With a sudden, cheerful agree sounding, the brown-haired girl enthusiastically supports the captain's sentiment. Walking through the neighborhood, the black-haired man remains focused while his squad follows behind.
The boy asks the captain if he was present during the last major enemy hazard.
A photo shows a smiling, brown-haired friend named Kotora Ichijo, who also joined the organization.
The black-haired man touches his chin thoughtfully, mentioning the 7th Squad's captain specifically. A sudden, sharp yikes sounding, the brown-haired girl reacts with shock to the scouting news.
The boy asks about the nature of the 7th Squad while the girl offers her condolences.
Putting an end to the conversation, the captain commands the group to stop chatting and focus. A massive red portal door hums with energy, surrounded by men in formal black suits.
The trio notices another team at the scene, which the captain explains as an investigative overlap.
A man named Masatoshi Nishina, boss of Team Orion, introduces himself while smoking a cigarette. Kakeru introduces himself as the captain of Tenro's first squad. Both leaders acknowledge their association orders, but Kakeru politely asks the other team to leave.
The brown-haired girl and the boy react with loud disbelief to the captain's request.
Corinne questions the arrival rules while the captain smiles as the Team Orion boss stays silent. Kakeru asks to accompany them in a support role, citing reputation concerns for leaving early. The Team Orion boss muses about how much big-name teams love keeping the association happy.
With a dismissive gesture, Nishina agrees to let them tag along if they follow his instructions.
A sudden, thoughtful puff sounding, the captain looks ahead with a neutral and observant expression. Karen asks why the captain went so far as to offer support, while he laughs. With a sudden, smooth swish sounding, Kakeru smiles, suggesting that bowing their heads ensures peace. Watching the captain walk toward the portal, the boy notes how his calm nature eases everyone. A sudden, sharp top sounding, the boy prepares to follow the group into the portal. With a sudden, heavy hum sounding, the group enters the red, swirling vortex of the portal.
Behind the captain's back, the Orion team members mock him for being an anticlimactic leader. Nishina plans to use Tenro as a stepping stone to boost their own status after clearing.
The Team Orion boss thinks about how much better clearing a high-difficulty red gate would look. The team panics, begging their boss for orders while he calls them idiots for being overwhelmed. The boy notes that these enemies are much stronger than the previous hazard, Small Fry. In a close-up, the captain's eye remains focused as he acknowledges the growing concern. The narrative explains that humanity knows very little about the true dangers of Red Gate catacombs. A massive, glowing portal hums with energy, revealing difficulties that exist far beyond known levels. With a sudden, terrified eek sounding, a suited man falls as a giant knight attacks. Karen mocks the other team's weakness as a sudden, intense boom sounding. Sota strikes back.
With a sudden, massive crash sounding, the boy defeats an armored knight, surprising the other enemies.
Sota checks on the fallen man while Corinne notes the boy moved purely on reflex.
The captain recalls the boy's goal to become the strongest conqueror who saves everyone. Karen looks thoughtful and surprised as she reflects on the boy's dreamlike and lofty ambition. The captain notes that despite the distant goal, the boy's resolve does not waver during battle.
A giant armored knight looms over the group, its metallic plates reflecting the dim dungeon light.
Kiro asks Karen about her own goals as Sota continues to fight off the enemies.
He wonders if she wants to outrank others or stand above teams while fighting rages on.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the girl looks shocked by the captain's probing personal question.
Karen remembers a destroyed city where she stood beside a body, begging to be a conqueror.
A close-up shows a young, bloodied Corinne crying over a fallen girl in the ruins. An abstract field of sharp black lines conveys the intense emotional trauma and psychological weight. With a sudden, pained grit sounding, the girl grinds her teeth while remembering her tragic past.
Karen freezes in shock as a massive armored knight raises its blade to strike her.
With a sudden, violent slash sounding, a pink energy pillar erupts, bisecting the giant knight instantly.
A sudden, pained groan sounding, Sota looks on in shock as the battle intensifies around them.
Karen expresses her fury at herself for forgetting the true purpose behind her desperate fight.
Yusei tells Sota not to drag them down while the student confirms his readiness with determination.
As armored knights surround them, Corinne activates her Rage of Gaia skill to shift the terrain. Massive pink crystals erupt from the ground as Corinne shouts with intense focus and absolute resolve. A sudden, sharp rumble sounding, Corinne unleashes earth spears to pierce through the encroaching enemy ranks.
The jagged earth stakes strike a knight directly, shattering its armor with a powerful magical impact.
Karen's eyes widen in alarm as she realizes her attack wasn't enough to stop them.
A sudden heavy stomp sounding, a wall of armored knights continues their relentless advance toward them. Sota jumps onto a knight, unleashing a sudden crackling spark sounding with his stun lightning skill. The student catches his breath, looking determined as he prepares his next magical fire assault.
Channeling intense energy, Sota conjures an infernal flame that engulfs the group of armored enemies.
The knights burn in the inferno while Sota and Corinne regroup amidst the fading fodder.
Sota worries that the enemy's high defense will drain his aura before the battle ends.
Spotting a new threat, Sota directs Corinne's attention toward a specific figure in the back.
He notes the presence of a particularly flashy enemy standing far behind the front lines.
Karen identifies the purple glowing boss knight, insulting its attention-seeking behavior with a confident, mocking grin.
They both decide to strike the boss knight with everything they have in a coordinated strike. A split screen highlights Corinne's myriad piercing spikes and Sota's infernal flame as they attack simultaneously.
Their combined elemental powers collide with the target, creating a massive explosion of light and heat.
A sudden, sharp hum sounding, the boss raises its sword while subordinates form a shield wall.
Sota and Corinne are stunned to see their ultimate moves blocked by the knight's strategic defense.
The boss knight points its glowing purple blade forward, signaling a counterattack to its soldiers.
Karen grinds her teeth in frustration as the army of red-eyed knights stands completely unmoved. She realizes the enemies possess genuine intelligence and are fighting in a disciplined military formation. A sudden, quiet gasp sounding, Corinne realizes with horror that these monsters are capable of thinking.
Sota observes that they are facing an actual army rather than a simple pack of beasts.
Nearby, a frightened man in a suit flees as the armored knights close in on him.
Stumbling on the ground, the man wonders why his comrades are refusing to retreat from danger.
Yusei explains that running is not an option because they know the consequences of total failure.
The brown-haired man's expression remains grim as he prepares to make a final, desperate stand.
Suit Cloud warriors panic, screaming that they need immediate backup to survive the boss knight's power.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, the Orion team leader commands his men to stay and fight.
He grimly asks them to consider what truly awaits them if they choose to flee now.
He reminds them that their town, families, and friends will perish if the hazard breaks out.
Rallying his squad, the man vows to cover Tenro even if it costs them their lives. A sudden, heavy clang sounding, a suit-clad warrior desperately clashes swords with a giant armored knight.
Karen watches the struggle from a low crouch, preparing to assist the struggling local warriors. Yusei lunges forward with a glowing green strike while Sota provides support with his fire magic. Karen notes that while they've pushed back slightly, the power gap between them remains immense. Surveying the chaotic battlefield, she realizes they are still vastly outnumbered by the undead knight army.
A sudden sharp whistle sounding, Corinne looks up as a massive surge of blue energy manifests.
Yusei is enveloped in a pillar of celestial light, drawing upon a hidden and powerful ability.
Corinne prepares a defensive move, realizing Yusei is evacuating them before unleashing his ultimate skill. A sudden, loud boom sounding, Corinne and the others are lifted by massive pink crystal pillars.
Elevated high above the knights, the team watches as Yusei prepares to devastate the battlefield below.
Sota stands atop a crystal pillar, looking down in awe at the power Yusei is gathering.
Karen confirms that their captain moved them to safety so he could use his final skill.
A massive starry celestial hand appears above Yusei as he activates his giant killing ability.
Yusei lunges forward with a punch, shouting his resolve as the mighty blue hand follows.
Capt Kakeru lets out a sudden, powerful shout, sounding, manifesting a giant blue aura fest.
The brown-haired girl watches in awe, noting the captain's skill as more enemies approach.
Karen explains that the captain uses his aura to manifest a massive glowing blue hand. The girl continues her explanation, stating that the skill allows him to sweep away enemies.
Karen notes that the weight of his blows is comparable to the Supreme Commander's power. With a sudden, quiet swish sounding, Kakeru stands calmly as the armored knights remain defeated.
A sudden, rhythmic ha sounding, the captain repeatedly strikes with the massive blue energy fist.
Turning back with a sweat-beaded face, the black-haired man acknowledges his own immense, serious power. In a flashback, a brown-haired man claps while congratulating Kakeru on awakening his unique skill. With a sudden, encouraging pat sounding, a hand reaches out to touch the young man's shoulder. Smiling warmly, the man in the gray suit tells the young conqueror that he succeeded. Back in the present, Sota marvels at the pulverized enemies while the captain walks ahead. Kakeru dismisses his own incredible strength, calling it a simple muscle-head skill that packs punches. Kakeru compares his ability to Corinne's or Kiichiro's skill, prompting a confused reaction from Sota.
The black-haired student looks up in surprise, asking if the captain actually knew his father.
With a sudden, soft chuckle sounding, Kakeru prepares to explain the history they both share.
Deeply apologetic, the men from Team Orion bow while asking for forgiveness for their previous rudeness. Sota reacts with shock as Kakeru is identified by his title, the Fist of Absolute Destruction. Corinne explains that the Knights of Round was the legendary first team formed in Japan.
The girl notes that while many members became executives, there were notable exceptions among them.
Kakeru explains he founded a new team while Sota's father chose to remain a reserve.
The captain reveals that Sota's father was his mentor, savior, and the man who inspired him.
Standing tall under a bright sky, the massive Conqueror Association building looms over the city.
A sudden, thoughtful puff sounding, an unseen man notes that Keiichiro's son joined Kakeru's squad. Chairman Ryunosuke Sakato, a scarred, silver-haired man, sits in his office while smoking a cigar. With a sudden, heavy thud sounding, the chairman crushes his cigar while acknowledging the current situation.
Sakato declares that their illegal activities, including the unauthorized catacomb entry, will be officially dismissed.
A silver-haired youth named Yamato lounges on a sofa while a subordinate thanks the chairman.
The chairman yells at Yamato to fix his attitude and learn from his more disciplined peers.
Apologizing profusely, the subordinate grabs Yamato's hair and promises to have a serious talk later.
Yamato notes that Sota's father was one of the chairman's old comrades, causing Sakato to react.
With a sudden, angry slam sounding, the chairman yells that helping isn't a personal favor.
Sakato insists that as the association chairman, he cannot let personal feelings dictate his official actions.
The silver-haired man narrows his eyes, warning the group that they are heading in that direction.
The chairman explains that Tenro's strength creates a solid position that limits their freedom of action.
Sakato warns Yamato to act accordingly because his recent behavior has offended several important people.
While Yamato admits to his arrogant attitude, the chairman silently notes that the boy is aware.
The silver-haired youth asserts that he never forgets his responsibility as someone possessing great power. With a sudden, intense crackle sounding, Yamato releases a massive burst of blue electrical energy.
Yamato uses his power to light the chairman's cigar, challenging any critics to face him directly.
With a sudden, quiet exhale sounding, the chairman stares at the cigar lit by Yamato's energy.
Sakato reflects on Yamato's words about questioning his actions, noting the similarity to someone else.
The chairman recalls that Yamato said the exact same thing when Sakato first met Kiro.
Yamato blushes slightly, explaining that growing up in the same facility led to their similar speech.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the chairman remembers Yamato's desperate attempt to become a conqueror.
In a flashback, a sudden, heavy crash sounding, a young Kakeru is knocked to the ground. A man yells at the boy, warning him that the battlefield is no place for children.
With a sudden, desperate shout sounding, bloodied Kakeru insists he must become a conqueror no matter what. The veteran conqueror reacts with visible anger to the boy's refusal to back down from danger.
Flashback to a man in a martial arts gi standing over another, noting the boy's serious nature.
Within the memory, the man in the gray suit reaches out to ask if the boy is okay.
The man introduces himself as Kiichiro Sasaki before asking the young boy for his own name.
A close-up shows the young boy's striking blue eyes as he stares back with intense focus.
The two establish a life-changing bond as they firmly shake hands during the fateful encounter. In the present, Kiro explains that he and several others all grew up in the same facility.
The captain recalls how Keiichiro reached out to help him when the facility was drowning in debt.
A hazy visual depicts the moment Kakeru first accepted Keiichiro's helping hand as his mentor.
Sota asks for more details as a sudden, sharp flash-sounding light erupts from the dungeon.
The trio shields their eyes as a blindingly bright light fills the area deep inside the catacomb.
The green-haired student looks completely stunned by the sheer intensity of the mysterious visual event.
A massive, intricate metallic gate is revealed, prompting Sota to wonder what lies beyond the threshold.
The sheer scale of the metallic structure looms over the group, humming with an ancient energy.
Corinne notes the strangeness as a sudden, heavy rustle sounding. They cautiously approach the gate.
Kakeru stares ahead with a grim expression, causing Corinne to worry about his sudden change in mood.
Memories of a sudden, rhythmic heartbeat sounding, Kakeru recalls asking Keiichiro for instructions during a crisis.
In the flashback, Keiichiro insists they must investigate regardless of the dangers hidden beyond the gate.
The memory shifts to a tragic scene where a man lies motionless in a pool of blood.
Young Kakeru cradles his dying mentor while a sudden pained sob sounding, blood spills onto the floor.
Back in the present, Corinne watches her captain with concern, sensing his deep emotional turmoil.
Kakeru orders the group to get back up while he investigates alone, causing a sudden, sharp gasp sounding.
He explains that the gate is too abnormal as a sudden, heavy thrum sounding. He insists on safety. Karen refuses to abandon her post, asserting her responsibility as the squad's vice captain to stay.
The girl declares she is no longer a child and wants to fight as a real conqueror.
Sota asserts that he feels exactly the same way as Corinne, refusing to back down from danger.
Kakeru warns they shouldn't proceed, but the boy remains puzzled by his captain's uncharacteristic hesitation.
Nishina interrupts, volunteering to call for backup as a sudden, heavy footstep sounding. He approaches.
The Team Orion boss admits his team's limits while acknowledging the young conquerors possess real ability.
Nishina reminds Kakeru that trusting his subordinates is just as vital as protecting their lives.
With a sudden, quiet sigh sounding, the captain relents and leaves the backup request to Naena. Karen and Sota are both overjoyed to receive permission to continue the investigation together.
Turning to Sota, the Team Orion boss admits he has yet to thank him for saving them. A sudden, soft puff sounding, Nishina expresses his gratitude while the boy blushes in embarrassment.
With a sudden, firm grip sounding, Nishina shakes Sota's hand and promises to value his life.
The Team Orion members wave goodbye as they head back to contact the Conqueror Association.
A mysterious black void appears amidst red energy while an unseen voice speaks out into the dark.
A sudden hot crackle sounding, a small red flame creature named Tamau appears before the boy.
Tamau warns that the path ahead is a turning point that will change their very fate.
The creature explains that cosmic restrictions prevent it from sharing any more specific details.
Tamau states that for certain reasons it cannot follow him and that he must go alone. A sudden sharp focus sounding, Corinne calls out to Sota to get his attention.
Karen chides him for not taking things seriously while Sota apologizes and runs to join them.
A close-up shows the boy's contemplative expression as he looks back at the small flame. Smiling warmly, Sota notes that he isn't alone because he has reliable allies by his side. With a sudden, quick powder sounding, the boy runs toward his teammates at the massive gate. The red flame creature watches them while a cryptic narrative mentions the start of a self-service.
Karen scolds the boy while the narration questions what truths they will learn beyond the threshold.
A sudden, heavy step sounding, a single foot moves forward toward the exit of the catacomb.
Reaching the outside world, Nishina prepares his team to finally contact the association.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, the Team Orion members follow their boss away from the site.
Nishina encourages Team Orion by stating their journey is only beginning as his subordinates shout with renewed vigor. The subordinates vow to rival Tenro while a massive explosion of light erupts behind them as they move forward.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Nishina stops in his tracks with eyes wide as he senses an immediate threat. A mysterious long-haired person in white stands before the team, coldly ordering them to move out of the way.
Nishina demands to know who the stranger is, but the antagonist dismissively compares humans to simple fertilizer for their goals.
With a sudden heavy hum sounding, several translucent green silhouettes appear around Nishina as he senses an invisible attack incoming.
A sudden pained grit sounding, the Team Orion leader realizes the terrifying scale of the unseen threat facing his squad. Nishina charges forward with green energy glowing on his fists, shouting that he won't give the enemy time to strike.
A sudden cold chuckle sounding, the antagonist remains unmoved while a powerful purple aura surrounds their slender frame.
Nishina is suddenly overwhelmed by multiple bloody slashes as he struggles to reach the motionless figure in white.
Collapsing to the floor, Nishina acknowledges the enemy's monstrous power as wide-range slashes tear through the environment without effort.
The long-haired figure stands tall amidst the carnage, looking down with a predatory, sharp-toothed grin as the area darkens.
A sudden, heavy drip sounding, a trail of blood marks the floor where the defeated conquerors have fallen in battle.
Massive sprays of blood continue to erupt across the scene as the sound of rhythmic, unseen cutting fills the air.
The antagonist calmly walks through the hallway while dragging two unconscious, bloodied bodies toward a glowing light at the end.
A massive, sudden red slash sounding, the scene transitions through a void of black smoke and visceral energy effects.
Nishina lies gasping on the ground among his broken team, his hand reaching out as he struggles to maintain consciousness. A sudden quiet murmur sounding, the attacker notes that the souls of these humans are exceptionally boring and weak. Standing over the fallen, the figure in white declares they will make good fertilizer before a sudden hot spray sounding.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, the antagonist departs while wishing a dark blessing upon the catacomb they leave behind.
The scene shifts back to the main trio walking through a vast, rocky chamber as a sudden, quiet echo sounding.
Corinne notes how quiet the area has become while Kakeru leads the group deeper into the seemingly empty dungeon.
The captain orders them to stay alert while he scouts ahead, but Corinne senses an unnatural tension in the air. Looking surprised, the green-haired student is chided by Corinne for not paying attention during their cautious trek through the cave.
Sota apologizes for being distracted while Corinne points out that there is absolutely nothing around them to see it.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Sota's eye flares with a mysterious flame as he declares that they are surrounded.
The boy sees dozens of glowing, translucent human souls standing motionless in the dark, watching the group with empty eyes.
Karen is shocked to learn the area is filled with ghosts that only Sota can see as they stand together.
Sota explains that he has been seeing these lingering souls throughout the catacomb since they entered the deeper areas. A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Corinne asks if seeing souls is always part of his daily life, but he disagrees.
Sota reflects on how he can usually only see souls clearly in human form when they are inside catacombs.
A close-up shows a featureless blue soul staring directly at the group with a haunting, wide-eyed expression of silent sorrow.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, both Corinne and Sota react in shock as a soul unexpectedly speaks to the boy.
With a sudden, desperate shout sounding, the blue soul identifies itself as Utsugi while glowing intensely with flickering energy.
Utsugi explains he followed them because he was worried after seeing the young Conquerors argue with their squad captain.
Hazy memories show the moment Kakeru tried to protect the juniors by ordering them to leave and call for backup.
The soul of the freckled boy recalls entering a lethal area of a catacomb during his own past as a conqueror.
Utsugi remembers his teammates sending him away for reinforcements because his particular skill wasn't suited for direct lethal combat.
A sudden, heavy sob sounding, the soul reveals his eternal regret for leaving his comrades to die alone in battle.
Utsugi laments his own lack of courage, wishing he could have stayed to fight and change their tragic fate.
Corinne stretches her arms while asking Sota to translate the soul's words so she can understand the boy's lingering pain.
The girl suggests that they should find a way to help Utsugi find peace and finally pass on from this world.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Sota smiles warmly while acknowledging the sadness of being left behind with such heavy regrets.
Turning back to the blue soul, Sota asks Utsugi to explain exactly what he regrets most about his life.
Utsugi admits his greatest wish was to see his non-combat skill be useful in a real battle at least once.
When Sota asks for details, the soul explains that his ability is called I-Land Shared Vision, allowing for shared perception.
A sudden, soft pop sounding, Corinne scratches her head while considering the tactical potential of being able to share vision.
The girl concludes that while it is perfect for reconnaissance, it is completely useless for the dangers of direct monster combat.
Sota remains deep in thought as Corinne watches him, wondering why he has gone silent after hearing about the skill.
Karen scolds him for thinking out loud, but Sota excitedly explains he was running simulations of how amazing the skill is.
Sota and Corinne look on in disbelief, asking the green-haired boy if he truly means it.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, the boy smiles broadly while confirming his earlier statement.
Standing alone before a pair of ornate golden doors, Kakeru prepares for a looming confrontation. With a sudden, firm grip sounding, Kakeru clenches his fist as a dark memory of a night surfaces.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, a massive armored gatekeeper attacks, forcing Kakeru to block its blade. A sudden, heavy thrum sounding, Kakeru's gloved hands strain against the immense force of the enemy's weapon.
Staring in shock, the captain realizes the gatekeeper hasn't budged an inch despite his best defense.
A sudden, powerful boom sounding, Kakeru is sent flying backward by a wave of purple energy.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Kakeru's blue eyes narrow with intense determination amidst the swirling energy.
Activating a secret technique, the captain summons a colossal blue spectral hand to strike the knight.
A sudden, rhythmic walk sounding, the giant spectral hands deliver rapid strikes against the resilient armored gatekeeper.
Kakeru grit his teeth, noting that this opponent is far tougher than any armored enemy from before.
The captain realizes only a charged Psychic strike can win, but he locks the necessary time.
A sudden, desperate shout sounding, Kakeru's attention is diverted by the unexpected arrival of his subordinates.
Corinne and Sota rush to the front, calling out to their captain as they enter the fray.
Sota insists on taking over the fight, promising the captain that he will defeat the creature.
Kakeru warns him of the extreme danger, but the boy asks for a moment to prove himself.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, the boy gives a confident smirk, telling Kakeru to leave it to them.
Sota declares that he and Corinne will face the armored threat together right now.
With a sudden, hot crackle sounding, the boy vows to win the battle in under 1 minute.
Enveloped in bright orange flames, Sota charges forward with incredible speed toward the massive gatekeeper.
A summary of the production staff and scanlation team marks a transition in the unfolding story.
Kakeru shouts that the plan is reckless while the boy persists with his bold 1-minute promise.
The captain warns that this gatekeeper is even stronger than the previous boss they encountered.
Kakeru realizes the boy understands the burden of protection being carried by the squad captain.
Sota argues that they will never grow stronger if they are constantly shielded from every danger.
A close-up shows Conqueror's stunned expression as he processes the young Conqueror's firm, unyielding resolve.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding. A hazy memory shows a younger Kakeru making the same demand.
Standing beside her teammate, Corinne admits she agrees with Sota's desire to prove their real worth.
Looking directly at her captain, the girl pleads for the chance to handle the fight themselves. Relenting, Kakeru allows them to proceed but warns he will intervene if things become too lethal.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Corinne signals Sota to begin their combined offensive against the knight.
Kiro remains silent as he watches his two subordinates charge toward the massive armored enemy.
A close-up captures the captain's blue eyes reflecting a complex mix of concern and guilt.
A sudden, quiet sigh sounding, Kakeru questions his own worthiness to witness the boy's growth.
The captain laments stealing a father's pride from Kiichiro as the juniors begin their coordinated attack. A sudden, heavy step sounding, Corinne summons jagged pink crystals that erupt violently from the floor. The massive crystals trap the gatekeeper while Sota leaps across them with a flaming fist ready. A sudden, soft pop sounding, a jagged crystal fragment glows beneath the knight's heavy metal foot.
A sudden hot crackle sounding, Sota delivers a point-blank punch wreathed in intense orange flames.
Flames erupt around the gatekeeper as Corinne maintains her focus on the magical crystal entrapment.
Kakeru praises their teamwork but remains deeply worried that their attack power is still insufficient.
A sudden pained grit sounding, the captain watches closely, fearing the enemy has sustained no damage.
The armored knight staggers but remains upright, prompting Kakeru to question if the plan is working.
Standing among the pink crystals, the gatekeeper looms large as Corinne prepares her next tactical move.
With a sudden, desperate shout sounding, the girl calls out an urgent warning to her teammate.
Sota continues his fiery assault, determined to break through the gatekeeper's seemingly impenetrable metal armor.
A sudden, red slash sounding, a massive energy shockwave tears through the knight's heavy defense. The knight's red visor glow flickers as it prepares to retaliate against the two young conquerors.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Sota readies another flaming strike as the battle reaches its peak.
Sota delivers a rapid barrage of flaming punches against the massive armored gatekeeper.
Karen summons jagged pink crystals from the ground to restrain the knight's heavy metal feet.
The knight raises a burning blade to strike the boy as orange flames fill the area. A sudden, powerful boom sounding, the knight's massive sword strikes a barrier of shimmering pink energy.
The scene focuses on the armored shoulder and red cape of the resilient gatekeeper.
Kakeru exclaims that they are beyond excellent and performing perfectly in sync during the battle.
Watching a pink slash, the boy observes that this enemy shares traits with previous ones. A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the boy's eyes flare with mysterious, swirling orange flames.
Sota notes that despite the perfect armor, he can see small weak points in its slaw. The boy strikes a glowing orange weak point on the knight's chest with his flaming fist.
A sudden, soft pop sounding, the knight shifts the location of its soul's vulnerabilities to compensate.
Sota calls out for Corinne to aim at a specific spot as she readies her magic.
A pink energy blade severs the knight's arm as Corinne notes Sota's unique ability.
Karen stands confidently before the crumbling knight while pink energy surges from the cavern floor.
The girl realizes that seeing through Sota's eyes would allow her to target weak points perfectly.
Utsuki's blue soul appears behind Sota as the boy activates the shared vision skill.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, a digital HUD appears over the soul's eye to begin sharing perception.
Orange flames erupt around Sota as he prepares to deliver a final, decisive strike.
A sudden, quiet sigh sounding, Corinne crouches on the floor as the knight begins to disintegrate.
The massive armored gatekeeper begins to crumble into glowing dust following the coordinated assault.
Proclaiming herself a humble maiden, Corinne's eye glows with the blue light of the shared vision.
The girl declares the moment of glory belongs to the one who deserves it during victory. Sota's foot ignites as he leaps forward while Corinne commands him to strike the final blow. Enveloped in a colossal pillar of orange fire, the boy dives toward the armored enemy.
Unleashing a Soulquake impact, Sota delivers a devastating flaming punch directly into the knight.
A sudden, powerful boom sounding, a massive explosion of fire and energy consumes the remaining gatekeeper.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Corinne brushes dust off her shoulder as the smoke begins clearing.
A close-up shows the girl winking confidently with her orange eye amidst the settling debris.
The knight is completely vanquished as Sota stands amidst the cooling embers of his attack.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding. The boy notes that the battle took exactly 1 minute.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, Utsugi's soul reacts with profound shock to the swift victory.
The boy stands silently next to the blue soul in the center of the chamber.
Sota turns to Utsugi and warmly tells the freckle boy that he was successful.
The boy clarifies that their victory was only possible thanks to the soul's special skill.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Sota smiles brightly while thanking Utsugi for his vital contribution. Utsugi's blue soul appears deeply moved, his expression filled with relief and newfound peace.
The boy and the translucent soul perform a partner fist bump to celebrate their success.
A system notification announces that the lingering regrets of Nozomi Utsugi have been resolved. The group gathers as the system confirms the clear condition was involving his skill in battle.
A glowing window reveals that Sota has inherited the shared vision skill from the departing soul.
A sudden soft puff sounding, Utsugi smiles happily while thanking Sota and preparing to move on.
The soul thanks Corinne and the captain as they watch with glowing blue HUDs on their eyes.
Karen admits she initially underestimated his skill but learned much from working with him today. A close-up shows Utsugi's peaceful, smiling face as his translucent form begins to fade.
The soul expresses his gratitude for meeting everyone at the very end of his long journey.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding, Sota watches the soul depart with a calm and respectful expression.
Utsugi leaves them with a final warning to remain cautious as they proceed further. A vision of a glowing white gate appears, surrounded by the armor of fallen conquerors.
Utsugi mentions having a bad feeling ever since they entered, like losing one's true self.
The soul warns that staying too long leads to becoming like the many featureless spirits nearby.
A sudden soft puff sounding, the blue soul fades away while urging the group to be careful.
Only a fading shimmer of light remains on the stone floor where the soul once stood.
Kikeru, Sota, and Corinne stand together as they look toward the dark and uncertain hallway end.
Sota looks down pensively, struggling to understand the soul's warning about losing his true self.
Recalling a grim battlefield, the boy wonders if Tamau's absence is linked to the Metal Knights.
Karen remarks that the soul certainly left them with some very ominous and unsettling parting words.
Pointing at her teammate, the girl teasingly asks if he intends to chicken out right now. Sota laughs and assures her that he has no intention of turning back from the fight.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Corinne urges her captain to continue their journey deeper into the dungeon.
The three conquerors stand before a massive, ornate golden gate that blocks their path ahead.
A sudden soft puff sounding, Kikeru places his gloved hand against the heavy decorated gold door.
A sudden heavy creak sounding, the massive doors begin to swing open to reveal the next room.
A sudden bright shine sounding golden light spills from the grand hall as the group enters.
The trio enters a high-ceiling chamber filled with stone pillars and burning torches on the walls.
Looking around the grand architecture, Sota expresses his awe at the sheer scale of the room.
Kikeru realizes with the start that this location is identical to another place he has visited.
Karen suddenly shouts and points toward an object sitting in the center of the large arena.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Kikeru narrows his eyes to focus on what lies in the distance.
A pedestal holds a large, swirling purple egg that emits a deeply sinister and oppressive energy.
Karen asks her companions if they have any clue regarding the identity of the mysterious eggs.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the girl calls out Sota's name as she notices his shocked expression.
Sota stares in disbelief, realizing that the objects before them are something he recognizes from before.
A translucent blue soul with a distinct eye patch stands silently next to the large purple egg.
A sudden quiet echo sounding, the soul with the eye patch gazes forward with a calm, stoic expression.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, Sota calls out to the man, identifying him as a captain.
In a distant office, a light blue-haired girl eats chocolate while discussing the nature of duplicate souls.
She confirms meeting the soul of Goto, their second squad's vice captain, leaving no room for doubt.
A sudden soft sip sounding, the gray-haired man wonders if it could simply be a look-alike.
The girl insists it is impossible because the soul utilizes the exact same specialized combat skills.
The gray-haired man throws up his hand in frustration, admitting he does not understand the situation.
Insulting the man's lack of imagination, the girl provokes an angry reaction from her older superior.
A sudden loud thud sounding, the girl cries out in pain after being struck on the head.
The gray-haired man notices something in her tone and asks if she has a working theory.
Rubbing her head, the girl admits she has an idea while reaching for more chocolate treats.
A sudden soft chew sounding, she explains that Sota's conversation with the soul perfectly matched Goto's life.
A sudden sharp crunch sounding, she concludes that two identical people have experienced the exact same history.
As she eats, the girl wonders if a previous world existed before their current reality began.
Back in the hall, Sota realizes the dungeon may represent a world identical to their own.
A sudden, desperate shout sounding, Corinne screams the end of Sota's name as a threat appears.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the boy begins to turn as green energy flashes behind him. A sudden, heavy slash sounding, a massive burst of blood erupts as Sota is brutally struck.
Sota's eyes widen in absolute shock as blood splatters across his face from the surprise attack.
Kikeru and Corinne watch in horror as their teammate is sent flying across the grand hall.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding, a gray-haired man in white robes declares that one is down.
Blood trails through the air as the boy is thrown backward by the force of the strike. In the office, the light blue-haired girl ponders the fate of their world with a grim expression.
A sudden, heavy thud sounding, Sota lies motionless on the floor in a growing pool of blood. The soul with the eye patch stands in the background as the robed attacker approaches the group.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding, the soul lamentably notes that the cycle is going to repeat again.
A transition marks the end of the current story segment with a summary of production details.
Sota lies bleeding on the floor after being struck by the surprise attack.
A sudden, desperate shout sounding, Corinne screams her teammate's name in absolute terror.
Corinne frantically tries to stop Sota's bleeding as the eye patch soul watches silently. A close-up reveals the eye patch soul's blue eye filled with a somber intensity.
The soul continues to gaze downward, his expression unreadable amidst the chaotic scene.
Blood pours from Sota's mouth as he stares blankly into the distance.
The boy's head rests in a growing crimson pool on the stone sward. A green-haired boy in a school uniform appears startled by his sudden surroundings. Sitting up in a void, the boy questions where he has currently arrived. A voice explains he is currently unconscious in the space between two states. The boy recognizes the figure standing before him and asks if he is a captain. Looking at the translucent soul, the boy realizes he is facing someone familiar. A sudden quiet rumble sounding. The boy wonders if he is facing a fake leader.
The man turns his back and firmly denies being a counterfeit of the original. He identifies himself as the real Kiro Mami from a previously existing world.
Sota's inner self realizes this is the true captain despite the strange timeline.
The soul explains that he existed in the world before a total reset occurred.
A sudden soft gasp sounding. Sota questions the reset while Kikeru praises his growth.
A vision shows Sota previously acting as a simple baggage carrier for the team.
Kikeru smiles warmly and notes that the boy has clearly become much stronger. Sota humbly dismisses the praise since he was just defeated in the real world.
The boy worries if his previous self met a grim end in this location.
Kikeru narrows his blue eye and begins to clarify who truly faced death. A sudden, quiet echo sounding. A vision shows a different version of Kikeru's past. Kikeru admits he never managed to change despite having received a second chance.
The shark-toothed attacker smiles wickedly while expressing excitement about the upcoming fight.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding. The purple egg pulses with an eerie and rhythmic sound.
The attacker revels in the salvation brought to the void by his past memories.
A memory depicts a younger Kikeru crying over a fallen comrade in the hall. A mysterious hooded figure slowly approaches the center of the grand chamber. A glowing message bestows a dark blessing upon the inhabitants of the great catacomb. A sudden, powerful boom sounding. A massive surge of blue energy tears through the air.
The attacker is sent flying as a colossal spectral fist delivers a crushing blow.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding. The force of the impact shakes the entire room.
Kikeru manifests a giant blue spectral arm while glaring at his wounded enemy.
Corinne calls out to the captain as smoke billows around the fallen boy.
Sota notes the insane power of the strike that a human couldn't survive.
Kikeru reveals a deep, bloody gash over his eye as he refuses to fall. A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Kikeru dismisses the severe injury as a mere scratch.
The attacker laments missing his target due to a mangled and broken right hand.
Blood streams down Kikeru's face from the brutal wound cutting across his left eye.
Kikeru vows revenge while the attacker insults him and calls him worthless fertilizer.
The gray-haired man complains that Kikeru ruined the greatest moment of his life.
The villain reveals a small glass bottle filled with a swirling pink liquid.
Sticking out his tongue, the man claims they should be grateful for his rationality.
A sudden soft sip sounding, the attacker consumes the strange potion to recover. The man's eye glows with a terrifying pink light after drinking the mysterious elixir.
A sudden wet squelch sounding, multiple monstrous arms sprout from the attacker's back.
The transformed villain promises to chop them up and plow them into the ground. Sota looks on in shock, realizing that their enemy is no longer a normal human. Sota struggles to rise and assist his captain while the eye patch soul dismisses his efforts. Kikeru questions the soul's coldness after being told he requires no help from his teammate.
The soul explains that the captain has been desperately searching for his own demise for ages.
As Kikeru battles on, Sota watches from the floor while coughing up a trail of blood.
A sudden, quiet echo sounding, the soul confesses his role in Keiichiro's death before questioning Sota's resolve. A transition marks the shift in perspective with a detailed list of the series' production staff.
The eye patch soul repeats his heavy confession of being responsible for the tragic death of Keiichiro.
Sota realizes the man mentioned is his father while the soul asks if he still intends rescue.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, the soul somberly recalls being present during the fatal moment of Keiichiro's end.
The scene begins to blur into a deep memory as the focus shifts toward the past.
Sota's eyes remain wide in disbelief as the weight of the soul's revelation finally sinks in.
A sudden, rhythmic walk sounding. A younger Kikeru expresses his hesitation regarding their dangerous two-man catacomb exploration.
Keiichiro urgently explains they must find the queen spider that recently terrorized another conqueror near the gate.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the older mercenary declares that they have finally located their target's trail.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Keiichiro apologizes for involving Kikeru as they move deeper into the caverns.
The seasoned veteran admits the loneliness of his mercenary life, despite having no one else to trust.
Kikeru wonders why his mentor remains a freelancer instead of accepting a stable role within the association. Keiichiro explains he avoids the hero title because it inspires reckless youths to meet their doom.
He stays on the front lines hoping to save a few lives while Kikeru listens in Tembe.
Kikeru invites his companion to join the growing Tenro organization to help lead the next generation.
He emphasizes their need for veteran wisdom and expresses a sincere desire to save his friend.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Kikeru pledges to work alongside him as a comrade rather than a disciple.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, the older man finds the idea of joining a group of children amusing.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Keiichiro considers the offer while Kikeru looks on with a hopeful expression.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, their conversation is abruptly interrupted by a strange noise echoing nearby.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a crowned skeleton knight emerges from the shadows to block their path. Keiichiro asks for his partner's readiness while Kikeru reminds him who provided his combat training.
A sudden rhythmic run sounding, the two warriors charge together as fire and energy begin to flare.
A sudden loud boom sounding, the skeleton is shattered into burning fragments after a single coordinated strike.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, the duo recovers their breath before proceeding toward a massive golden portal.
A sudden soft puff sounding, Kikeru identifies the fallen knight as the gatekeeper while opening the ornate doors.
A sudden heavy creak sounding, they are stunned to find a massive army of monsters waiting inside.
Kikeru shouts in shock at the overwhelming number of enemies filling the grand multi-level chamber. Sensing something far more dangerous than simple numbers, Keiichiro warns his comrade to remain extremely cautious. A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Kikeru summons a colossal spectral hand as they plunge into the fray.
A sudden heavy crash sounding, their combined fire and magic tear through the front lines of the horde.
A sudden loud boom sounding, the force of their assault sends multiple monsters flying through the air.
Kakeru feels invincible as long as he fights side by side with his trusted and experienced mentor. A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the massive queen spider suddenly appears above the chaos of the battlefield. A sudden rhythmic run sounding, Kikeru lunges toward the boss believing her defeat will end the entire conflict. A sudden bright shine sounding, a glowing pink magic circle activates beneath Kakeru's feet as he moves.
A sudden heavy clink sounding, magical chains erupt from the trap to restrain the boy's limbs.
Kikeru shouts out in panic as he realizes he has walked straight into a lethal ambush.
A sudden wet squelch sounding, Keiichiro is brutally impaled by a giant spike while shielding his trapped partner.
A sudden loud laugh sounding, a hooded villain mocks their foolishness for protecting each other during battle.
The attacker celebrates his successful execution of a knight of round while Kikeru rushes to his friend.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Kikeru holds the dying man who is coughing up a large amount of blood.
A sudden quiet hum sounding, a powerful blue aura begins to emanate from the fallen mercenary.
A sudden, powerful roar sounding, a massive surge of divine energy begins to envelop the entire battlefield.
A sudden, colossal boom sounding, a devastating ultimate skill is unleashed to annihilate everything in its path. Deep in the caverns, Kikeru carries his dying mentor toward a distant and hopeful light. A sudden, rhythmic walk sounding, Kikeru begs Keiichiro to hold on as the dying man whispers his gratitude. A long trail of blood marks their path as Keiichiro admits he can no longer fight alongside his partner.
Despite the pain, the older man confesses his happiness while Kikeru desperately urges him to stop talking.
Haunted by failure, Keiichiro laments losing his target and feels unworthy of ever seeing his son, Sota, again. A sudden bright shine sounding, Kikeru spots the exit portal while his friend offers one final desperate plea. With his strength fading, the dying mentor entrusts Kikeru with the safety of his beloved son.
A sudden powerful hum sounding, they reach the gateway as Kikeru promises that salvation is finally within reach.
The light fades from Keiichiro's eyes as Kikeru breaks down in tears over his fallen comrade.
A sudden blinding flash sounding, the gateway pulses with energy as the memory finally begins to dissolve.
A transition marks the shift in perspective with a detailed list of the series' production staff. The eye-patch soul remains silent, his single blue eye reflecting the heavy burden of his past memories. A sudden quiet echo sounding, the soul takes full responsibility for leading his mentor to a tragic end.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the soul explains his previous death while protecting everyone in a different world.
The soul watches his current counterpart bleed, wishing for him to sacrifice himself for his comrade's sake.
He believes this ultimate sacrifice is the only way to atone for his failures toward Keiichiro and Sota.
Fresh blood stains the collar of Kakeru's coat as the brutal reality of the current battle sets in.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the soul reacts with surprise as the flow of the battle shifts unexpectedly.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, Kikeru stands wounded in the grand hall as the title screen appears.
Karen shouts out in panic after seeing the severe injuries sustained by her beloved captain. A sudden, rhythmic run sounding, Kikeru commands her to stay back while a trail of dust rises behind him. Kikeru entrusts her with a critical mission, begging her to keep Sota safe from the impending danger.
A sudden, soft smile sounding, the captain offers a bloody grin and places his full trust in her. The shark-toothed villain mocks Kakeru's abilities, claiming to have seen through his pathetic combat skills long ago. A sudden, loud laugh sounding, the attacker taunts the captain to beg his weak friends for a rescue.
Kakeru realizes his initial strike was lucky and that his opponent has perfectly anticipated every subsequent move.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Kakeru suspects this terrifying enemy has somehow faced him in a previous life. A sudden, powerful boom sounding, the villain raises his hand to unleash another devastating wave of energy.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, multiple purple energy slashes tear through the air with lethal precision.
Kakeru barely manages to dodge the incoming projectiles as they explode against the floor around him.
The attacker relentlessly pursues his target, swinging his arm to generate a massive crescent of purple magic.
A sudden, heavy pants sounding, Kakeru ducks just in time to avoid a strike aimed at his neck.
A sudden, wet squelch sounding, a hidden energy spike impales Kakeru through the back, drawing a scream.
Kakeru's eyes widen in absolute shock as he realizes he has been caught in a lethal trap. A sudden, heavy stomp sounding, the captain struggles to maintain his footing on the shattered stone floor. A sudden, heavy pants sounding, Kakeru stands his ground despite the blood pooling beneath him in the arena.
A sudden, bright shine sounding, a fierce blue light begins to glow within Kakeru's remaining healthy eye. A sudden, powerful hum sounding, a massive pillar of blue aura erupts to envelop the captain's body.
A sudden, rhythmic run sounding, Kakeru charges forward through a barrage of purple energy slashes. He quickly realizes the enemy's constant pressure prevents him from fully charging his destructive aura.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Kakeru summons a giant blue spectral hand to crush his mocking opponent.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding, the massive hand descends from above to flatten the gray-haired attacker. A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the villain effortlessly shatters the spectral limb into dozens of glowing fragments.
Kakeru is left speechless as his most powerful attack is dismantled with such casual, terrifying ease.
The captain realizes his foe has surrounded himself with a web of invisible, lethally sharp energy slashes. A sudden, loud laugh sounding, the villain revels in the absolute defense provided by his unseen carnage.
The attacker raises his arms in triumph, celebrating the inevitable slaughter of the remaining conquerors.
A sudden, heavy pant sounding, Kakeru worries that his excessive blood loss will soon bring his end.
The captain steals a quick glance back toward his friends, his expression filled with grim determination. Karen watches in horror, her eyes wide as she realizes her leader has reached his physical limit. Close-up of her tear-filled orange eyes, Corinne's horror grows as she realizes the captain intends to sacrifice himself.
A sudden loud laugh sounding, the shark-toothed villain begins to speak with a look of pure malicious glee.
The gray-haired villain mocks his sacrificial resolve and promises that he will not be allowed to die easily. He vows to murder the girl first while the captain watches in helpless, absolute shock. A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, a swirling purple and gold orb is revealed as a vessel for harvesting their souls. A sudden, powerful boom sounding, the mysterious egg is abruptly consumed by a massive, unexpected pillar of fire.
Stunned by the sudden interruption, the villain reacts with total confusion as her plans literally go up in smoke.
Looking down from the higher level, the attacker watches as more explosions of flame rip through the hall. A sudden, heavy pant sounding, Kakeru watches in awe as Sota stands before him, wreathed in fierce fire. Kakeru realizes with total shock that the boy has used his own flames to cauterize his lethal wounds.
A sudden, rhythmic walk sounding, Sota commands the captain to take Corinne and flee the area immediately.
Refusing to retreat, Kakeru declares his intent to protect the boy even if it costs him his life.
Sota confronts the captain, questioning if he believes a hollow sacrifice is the only way to achieve atonement.
He shouts in anger, firmly refuting the idea that his father ever wanted Kakeru to suffer for the past.
A flashback shows the dying Keiichiro smiling through the blood, expressing gratitude for the life he was invited into.
Sota explains his father's only regrets were failing his family and not leaving final words for his son.
His green eyes burning with intensity, Sota reveals that the burden Kakeru carries is of his own making. Blood drips from Kakeru's wounded eye as he processes the painful truth behind his mentor's final moments. A sudden, heavy stomp sounding, Sota turns toward the enemy, commanding the captain to live instead of dying uselessly. The villain screams in a feral rage, calling them worthless fertilizer and promising a long, agonizing execution.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Kakeru finally admits that he cannot hope to defeat this monster on his own.
Kakeru looks to his young companion, formally requesting that they combine their strength for the upcoming battle. Sota looks back with a determined and focused expression, acknowledging the captain's request with a solemn nod. A sudden, soft gasp sounding, the boy's green eyes shine with the resolve of a true warrior.
A sudden, loud roar sounding, the captain declares they will strike together to bring their mocker down.
Sota wipes blood from his face, vowing that they will all survive and return home from this battle. Standing side by side in the shattered arena, the two warriors prepare to launch a unified final assault.
The villain is incensed, unable to believe the boy she deemed abilityless has hidden such terrifying power.
A sudden, loud laugh sounding, the attacker continues to scream insults as the duo stands their ground.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Kakeru mutters to himself while focusing his remaining energy on the target.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the captain reacts with surprise as the flow of the battle shifts again.
A sudden rhythmic run sounding, Sota lunges forward, his speed leaving a blurring trail of golden energy.
The villain mocks his head-on charge, believing that simply getting close will change nothing for the weaklings. Multiple purple energy slashes erupt from the air as the villain attempts to shred the boy to pieces.
Sota agilely weaves through the barrage of magic, his movements sharp and precise despite his heavy injuries.
A sudden, soft laugh sounding, the villain calls him an idiot as she prepares her ultimate defense.
She claims to see right through his desperate tactics, confident that her invisible shield will stop him cold.
A sudden, rhythmic run sounding, Sota's feet kick up dust as he closes the distance at blinding speed.
A sudden heavy crash sounding, two massive energy beams cross in the air to form a lethal trap.
The villain is stunned when the boy somehow evades her strike, questioning how he bypassed her magic.
Sota ducks beneath a wide swing, his eyes fixed on the target with a gaze of cold determination.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, a flame-wreathed fist connects squarely with the villain's gut, shattering her defense.
A sudden, wet squelch sounding, the attacker is sent reeling, coughing up blood from the sheer physical force.
Sota stands his ground after the strike, his school uniform tattered and soaked in his own blood. A sudden, heavy pant sounding, the villain staggers backward, her face twisted in a mask of absolute disbelief. She realizes with horror that he navigated the tiny gaps in her invisible fear barrier with impossible precision. A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota launches a relentless flurry of strikes to keep her off balance.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding, the villain is blown back by the weight of the boy's physical assault.
Desperate, she tries to reactivate her magic, but Sota is already moving before the spell can take form.
His eyes glowing with golden light, Sota explains that his aura allows him to sense her skills before activation.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Sota dodges a lethal energy slash while contemplating the spiritual nature of aura.
The gray-haired villain launches a relentless barrage of magic slashes that Sota agilely weaves through. A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota reveals his ability to see souls before striking the villain with an energy-charged blow.
He declares the villain's skills useless against him as a massive impact sends her crashing into the stone walls.
Karen calls out to her captain in a panic, her orange eyes wide with worry for his condition.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Kakeru leans on the girl for support while offering a pained apology for his state.
Watching the battle, Karin realizes Sota's unique vision allows him to perceive and bypass the villain's invisible defenses. A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the shark-toothed villain recovers from the rubble while Sota stands his ground despite his injuries.
Despite Sota's apparent dominance in the fight, Karin remains deeply unsettled by the boy's strategy.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, she questions why he isn't using a shared vision link or a single finishing move.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the girl's confusion begins to transform into a single, terrifying realization about Sota's physical state.
Close-up of Karin's orange eyes as she considers the possibility that the boy is physically unable to do more.
Memories of Sota's relentless combat against armored warriors highlight the immense toll the day has taken on him.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, a vision of the boy's severe wounds, emphasizes that his continued standing is a miracle. Karin watches the boy from the side, certain that he is dangerously close to his absolute physical limit.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding, a gloved hand firmly grips an arm to stop a sudden movement.
Kakeru holds Karin back, his expression hidden in shadow as he acknowledges the gravity of the situation.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Sota looks back with a pained expression, confirming that Karin's assessment is correct.
The villain is stunned to learn that Sota has been conserving his energy for one final decisive strike.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Sota moves forward with absolute confidence, certain of his eventual victory.
He mocks the gray-haired attacker, daring her to fight with her life on the line or die as fertilizer.
A sudden, loud roar sounding, the villain screams in rage while pouring a glowing purple elixir over her head.
A massive, blinding pillar of purple energy erupts around the villain as she undergoes a terrifying transformation.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Karin and Kakeru shield their eyes from the overwhelming pressure of the villain's new power.
Kiro realizes with horror that the substance doesn't just heal her wounds, but exponentially boosts her magical aura.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota remains unfazed, inviting her to use any power she wishes for their final clash.
His eyes glowing with intense fire, the boy declares that his final move has already been decided.
A sudden, loud laugh sounding, the villain stands within a swirling vortex of energy, her face twisted in feral glee.
A sudden, powerful boom sounding, she unleashes a devastating spray of purple energy that tears through the grand hall. Sota stands motionless as the magic slashes erupt all around him, his expression one of cold calm.
Close-up of Sota's determined face as he prepares to navigate the final stages of the lethal battle.
A sudden heavy crash sounding, the structural integrity of the hall fails as purple magic shatters the pillars and ceiling.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, a red energy dome protects the allies from the falling debris and shockwaves.
Karen watches the destruction in stunned silence, her face reflecting the absolute intensity of the combat.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a surge of blue energy pulses through the dark atmosphere of the room.
Kikeru commands the area with a firm gesture as rocks continue to tumble from the shattered architecture.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the captain offers Corinne his thanks while maintaining his grim focus on the enemy.
He acknowledges that he still has a specific role to play in the outcome of this desperate fight.
The villain glares upward through the settling dust, her red eyes burning with a mixture of hate and frustration.
A sudden rhythmic walk sounding, Sota emerges from the smoke, still standing despite the chaos surrounding him.
A sudden loud laugh sounding, a close-up of the villain's shark-like teeth reveals her malicious amusement.
She mocks Sota's pathetic condition, promising to subject him to a slow and agonizing death.
A sudden, wet squelch sounding, blood drips from the corner of Sota's mouth as he processes the physical strain.
Wiping the blood away, Sota dismissively tells the villain she barely scratched him and mocks her arrogance. A sudden, loud growl sounding, the gray-haired villain admits to being jealous of the boy's unwavering resolve.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota launches a flaming punch that illuminates the darkened arena with gold light.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding, the boy engages in a rapid exchange of blows, his movements blurring with fire. The villain managed to catch Sota's burning fist mid-air, halting his momentum with brute physical strength.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, she grips his hand tightly, her expression shifting into one of pure, murderous intent.
A sudden, heavy stomp sounding, she delivers a powerful kick that sends the boy skidding across the shattered floor.
Sota's golden eyes narrow as he observes the villain's significantly improved close-quarters fighting capabilities.
The gray-haired villain claims the ether makes her a human beyond humanity with no openings. Sota questions her use of drugs while she calls ether a blessing from the catacomb. She describes the elixir as a sacred substance nurtured by the souls of those deemed fertilizer.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota begins to glow with an intense blue light as the villain attacks.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the shark-toothed woman realizes the boy is preparing a massive strike. Confident in her speed, she assumes Sota is a mere decoy since he lacks ranged attacks.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, her expression shifts as she realizes the battle's true intent.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the villain looks past the boy, realizing Kiro is the actual target.
She remains dismissive, noting the boy has relied exclusively on close combat throughout their entire duel.
The villain unleashes a purple slash, taunting Kiro to watch his friend be torn to shreds.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, her gaze snaps back as she detects a massive shift in power.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, Sota launches a massive blue energy strike that catches the villain off guard. Sota channels his father's gratitude, refusing to let the man's memory be turned into a curse.
A vision of the eye-patched captain appears, asking if the boy's regrets still remain unresolved.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, the wounded boy begs for the power to finally change their fate.
A sudden powerful hum sounding, Kikeru and Sota strike together, their combined auras forming a lethal blue fist.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the captain offers the boy his thanks during their shared moment.
A sudden heavy crash sounding, the villain is slammed backward by the force of the massive aura. A sudden sharp focus sounding, Kikeru's spirit looms behind a giant glowing blue fist to finish the fight.
A sudden loud roar sounding, the massive energy strike descends, shattering the air with overwhelming spiritual force.
Trapped by the energy, the villain screams insults at the warriors she considers nothing more than fertilizer.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota declares this specific move will be the one to defeat her.
His eyes burning blue, he vows this strike will resolve every one of the captain's long-held regrets.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, the twin sacred fist connects, sending the villain flying in a spray of blood.
A sudden, wet squelch sounding, the gray-haired attacker lies motionless on the floor, defeated at last.
Karen cheers at their hard-won victory while the bloodied Kikeru acknowledges their success with a nod. A sudden, bright shine sounding, a system notification announces the activation of a shared vision link.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, digital patterns overlay Corinne and Kakuru's eyes as their perspectives merge.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding, Corinne is stunned to see her own reflection through the captain's eyes.
Kiro reflects on their sworn vow to protect Sota, even if it meant sacrificing their own lives.
A sudden, soft laugh sounding, the captain smiles gently as he reevaluates his role in the boy's life.
He realizes that Sota doesn't want a sacrifice, but rather a path forward through their combined strength.
Kiro decides to entrust his future to the boy, hoping he becomes a conqueror who saves everyone.
The vision of the captain asks the bloodied man to finally resolve his regrets through this bond.
A sudden, soft gasp sounding, Kikeru urgently asks the vision what must be done to succeed.
A sudden soft puff sounding, a moment of silence passes between the man and his ethereal guide.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Kakeru agrees to the task while thanking his guide for the chance.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the captain's spiritual form begins to fade into a brilliant white light.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a notification confirms Kakeru Amami's regrets are resolved as the mission clears.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, Sota's eyes widen as he hears a desperate cry for the captain.
A sudden, heavy crash sounding. Kakeru collapses onto the stone floor, his body finally succumbing to his wounds.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Kakeru awakens in a bright forest after a painful fall to earth.
A brown-haired man critiques Kakeru's wasteful movements while demonstrating a controlled flaming palm technique.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, the older man encourages the exhausted youth to take a necessary break.
Rising with determination, young Kakeru vows to become exactly like his mentor as soon as possible.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, the older man finds the boy's earnest ambition to be quite amusing.
He gently explains that the boy can't be him, nor should he ever feel the need to.
The man wisely advises that wanting to be someone else is simply a waste of one's life.
He asks if Kakeru would truly want his own future son to say such self-deprecating things.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the green-haired mentor encourages the boy to surpass him one day.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, young Kakeru realizes the weight of the man's profound expectations for him.
A sudden soft puff sounding, the mentor calls out to Kakeru, bringing the young boy back to reality.
A sudden soft smile sounding, he advises Kakeru to live for himself rather than following in another's footsteps.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, Kakeru wakes up in a hospital bed with his head and eye bandaged. A sudden loud shout sounding, Corinne excitedly welcomes the captain back to consciousness alongside a brown-haired woman.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Kakeru looks up in dazed surprise as he recognizes the woman standing before him.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Oi greets the bandaged man and notes it has been quite some time. A sudden soft sigh sounding, Oi worries about their recklessness while Kakeru questions who else she is referencing.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Kakeru turns his head quickly as he notices someone else in the quiet room.
A sudden loud shout sounding, a bandaged Sota greets the captain from the adjacent bed with a sheepish grin.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Karen explains that both warriors collapsed from exhaustion immediately after their intense struggle.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, Sota, embarrassed by his own weakness, admits he also succumbed to his injuries. A sudden soft sigh sounding, Kakeru apologizes to Corinne for the immense trouble he caused during the fight.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Oe expresses regret for not visiting him sooner after he regained his consciousness.
A sudden powerful hum sounding, traumatic memories of the brutal battle and the captain's sacrifice flash through his mind.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Kakeru's hand clenches the bedsheet as he blames himself for his mentor's death.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Kakeru is caught off guard when Oe unexpectedly offers him her sincere gratitude.
A sudden soft smile sounding, she thanks him for humoring the captain's stubbornness and staying until the very end.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, Aoi laments that her request caused Kakeru to carry such a heavy emotional burden.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, she bows her head in apology while Kakeru watches her with a stunned expression.
A sudden loud shout sounding, the bandaged man sits up abruptly and begs her to stop apologizing for the past.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Oe looks at him with intense eyes, asking how he intends to live now.
A sudden soft puff sounding, Kakeru looks away, processing the gravity of the woman's question about his future.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, he confesses his original desire was simply to take Keiichiro's place in the world.
A sudden soft smile sounding, Kakeru explains he wanted to guide others with the same kindness his mentor once showed.
A sudden soft puff sounding, Sota listens silently as the captain reflects on his previous obsession with filling that role.
A sudden bright shine sounding, Kakeru realizes that throwing his life away was merely a way to escape his guilt.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, he declares his new resolve to fight to live and protect all his comrades.
A sudden soft smile sounding, a vision of the eye-patched captain watches as Kakeru swears to become much stronger.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, the man vows to survive because he knows he can't protect anyone if he dies.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, a figure stands by the bed as Kakeru reaches out to his young friend.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, Sota and Kakeru discuss the tragic news that the people from Orion were killed.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Sota grits his teeth in frustration, feeling he is still far too weak to help.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the green-haired boy manages a grin despite the pain of his recent failure.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a hand reaches out toward the light as the scene shifts to a new day. A sudden soft gasp sounding, Kakeru looks up in surprise as Sota calls out to his beloved captain once more. A sudden soft smile sounding,
Kakuru closes his eyes, finally finding a sense of peace within his new purpose.
A sudden soft smile sounding, away asks Keiichiro to watch over the children who have inherited his noble soul.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a notification confirms Kakeru Amami's regrets are resolved as the mission officially clears.
A sudden powerful hum sounding, a blue window reveals the clear condition was fighting for comrades and awards giant killing.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the eye-patched Kakeru leads his team through the hall, asking if everyone is ready.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, a determined Sota stretches his arms while confirming he is prepared for anything.
A sudden, loud growl sounding, the man with the pompadour hair warns Corinne not to drag the team down.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, Corinne retorts that it's her line while she and her teammate begin to argue.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, the two young warriors glare at each other with intense competitive fire in their eyes.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, their gazes lock in a heated confrontation as they prepare for their upcoming test.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, Sota nervously reminds his opponent to stay focused so the test remains valid.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, his teammates scream at him for being cocky as a chaotic argument erupts.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, the senior members of the team watch the youngsters bickering with weary amusement.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, Kakeru calls for the official start of the team's intense test.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, the pompadour-haired man throws his jacket aside, demanding a real challenge.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, the muscular man lunges forward with a powerful and determined ground-shaking charge.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Corinne reacts with shock to see her teammate fighting shirtless once again. A sudden bright shine sounding, Corinne slams her hand onto the ground, channeling her vibrant pink energy.
A sudden loud boom sounding, a wave of massive pink crystal spikes erupts to impale the opponent.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Sota leaps high into the air to navigate the dangerous crystal field.
A sudden loud shout sounding, the pompadour-haired man notes he anticipated the boy's defensive movement.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, the combatants' movements blur as they trade high-speed spiritual strikes. A sudden soft gaff sounding, the pompadour-haired man is confused when his predicted attack misses the mark.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding, Sota manifests a massive glowing blue fist to crush his teammate.
A sudden loud roar sounding, the massive strike slams the pompadour-haired man forcefully into the ground.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Corinne watches the overwhelming display of spiritual force with wide, startled eyes. A sudden loud boom sounding, the impact generates a violent shockwave that clears the dusty training floor. A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Corinne rushes through the debris to resume her own aggressive offensive. A sudden soft laugh sounding, the senior man notes the mastery of Kakeru's skill used for defense. A sudden loud boom sounding, Corinne summons a new wave of jagged pink crystals with another strike.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a brilliant blade of spiritual fire cleaves through the crystal obstacles.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Corinne realizes her spiritual skill is a poor elemental matchup against the fire.
A sudden loud shout sounding, she asks the muscular man if he is still able to continue.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, the pompadour-haired man confirms his readiness while emerging from the wreckage.
A sudden, sharp focus sounding, the senior man observes the warrior's steel body transformation and sharpening control.
A sudden, soft puff sounding, Corinne places her hand down to prepare another large-scale spiritual technique.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, a massive pink wall rises to block the green-haired boy's path.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, the pompadour-haired man charges ahead while using the wall as a distraction.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the brown-haired senior notes that Soaraki is providing excellent tactical support.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Kakeru disagrees, stating that their ambitious vice captain is far greedier than that.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Corinne swings a massive pink crystal hammer as her teammate rushes forward.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, she vows to land a follow-up strike even if the first is blocked.
A sudden loud shout sounding, the steel-skinned man demands the boy take a direct, powerful hit.
A sudden loud shout sounding, Corinne follows through with her massive hammer to finish their target.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, the two teammates react with shock as their coordinated strike is countered.
A sudden powerful hum sounding, Sota uses a familiar technique to expertly redirect both massive attacks simultaneously.
A sudden loud boom sounding, the green-haired boy slams both of his teammates into the floor.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, the steel-skinned man groans in pain after being forcefully pinned down.
A sudden heavy pant sounding, Corinne cries out in pain while being neutralized by the boy's grapple.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, the visual impact of the throw lingers over the cracked stone floor.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, the senior members watch the three youngsters lying in a state of exhaustion.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, Kakeru is impressed that the boy has managed to pick up Aikido.
A sudden loud shout sounding, the defeated man questions how he knew, while Sota greets himself.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, Corinne notes the shared vision feels wrong and asks to turn it off.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, she asks if he was watching them through the Supreme Commander's eyes.
A sudden bright shine sounding, a system window confirms Sota has inherited the shared vision spiritual skill.
A sudden soft laugh sounding, Sota explains he figured he could share others' vision with himself successfully. A sudden soft smile sounding, Corinne remarks that the boy's ability to adapt complex skills is insane. A sudden soft smile sounding, she looks at the boy with genuine admiration for his incredible growth. A sudden soft smile sounding, a senior member notes the boy's ability more than qualifies his position.
A sudden sharp focus sounding, Kikeru asks his senior teammates if they agree with his high assessment.
A sudden soft smile sounding, the gray-haired girl nods her agreement while looking at the group. A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the senior team walks together as the young trio prepares to move out. Tense anticipation fills the room as the young warriors await the final verdict. Away Amami grants Sota Sasaki permission to take the squad captain promotion exam. A sudden loud shout sounding, a single word of confirmation echoes through the room.
Sota, Corinne, and their pompadour-haired teammates celebrate their chance to prove their worth.
Kikeru Amami interrupts their joy, sternly warning the trio not to celebrate just yet.
He reminds them that they have only earned the right to try the exam.
Kikeru touches his eye patch, noting he will return once he is fully healed up. A sudden soft sigh sounding, the eye-patched man reflects on the difficulty of his recovery.
A sudden quiet rumble sounding, he mentions the challenge of learning to fight one-eyed.
Kikeru resolves to reclaim his seat while Sota eagerly agrees to grow stronger together.
The brown-haired senior teammate asks for the specific details of the upcoming promotion exam.
A sudden bright shine sounding, the screen reveals the objective is conquering a forbidden zone.
The pompadour-haired man explains that forbidden zones are gates of ultra-high difficulty levels.
Kikeru explains these zones are sealed after 10 or more failed raid attempts.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding. The black-haired man grits his teeth in determined focus.
Away Amami notes that the expectations for a Tenro captain are incredibly high.
She admits the test is harsh, but Sota welcomes the challenge without any hesitation.
Sota declares he won't do a half-hearted job while carrying Tenro's massive legacy.
The green-haired boy vows to conquer the zone and prove he deserves everyone's trust. Deep within a cavern of skulls, a dark, horned figure waits in silent shadows.
A colorful recruitment banner for reset scans displays various characters and staff openings.
Karen, Sota, and their teammate walk through the city to reach the exam site. Sota asks if his friends are truly okay with joining this dangerous mission.
The pompadour-haired man explains that they both aim to become captains themselves eventually.
Karen mocks her teammate for making big claims while he isn't even vice captain yet. A sudden soft laugh sounding, Sota watches his two friends bicker during their walk.
A sudden loud shout sounding, the black-haired man calls out to his senior teammate.
The brown-haired warrior introduces Tachibana from the association to the young group.
Tachibana politely greets them and announces that the seal on the gate is released. He explains the association's process for temporarily sealing dangerous gates as forbidden zones. A massive glowing red gate is monitored by technicians as it begins to open.
The group stands before the towering futuristic structure as they prepare to enter.
The senior teammate instructs Sota to defeat the boss waiting inside the gate.
A sudden soft sigh sounding, the group reflects on their current shortage of manpower. A sudden quiet rumble sounding, Tachibana clenches his fist, frustrated by his own powerlessness. The man in the suit declares he will shoulder their regrets for them.
Sota solemnly swears to conquer the Forbidden Zone and return home successfully. Tachibana apologizes to the senior member for the young boy's intense and serious nature.
The brown-haired man finds it reassuring, calling Sota the rising star of Tenro. A sudden soft sigh sounding, Tachibana silently prays for the young warrior's success. A sudden loud shout sounding, Sota thanks the group before stepping toward the light.
The senior warrior warns the trio to call for help if things become too dangerous.
He looks them in the eye and commands them not to dare die inside. A sudden quiet rumble sounding, the three young heroes march resolutely toward the entrance. A brilliant, swirling energy erupts from the gate as the warriors cross the threshold. The team enters a vast, dark cavern filled with sharp stalactites and silence.
The pompadour-haired man nervously remarks that the atmosphere is far too quiet.
Karen agrees, her expression becoming more serious as they venture deeper into the cave.
They note the unsettling lack of any enemy presence within the supposedly dangerous zone.
A sudden bright shine sounding, Sota's eyes flare with fire as he senses something strange. A sudden soft gasp sounding, the green-haired boy notes the eerie emptiness of the cavern.
Toma observes this is the first time a catacomb has been so empty as a spirit appears.
A sudden soft gasp sounding, Sota reacts with shock as a small flame creature manifests.
Karen and her teammate activate their tactical eye interfaces to scan the strange entity.
The group identifies the glowing red entity as a genuine and dangerous will-o'-the-wisp. Sota's confusion grows until a mysterious voice commands him to run immediately. A sudden loud roar sounding, a massive horned figure emerges from the shadows behind the boy. The three warriors are frozen in terror as the entity appears without any warning. Surrounded by blue aura, the trio realizes they are facing a legendary and overwhelming threat. A sudden loud shout sounding, Toma unleashes a desperate full-power strike against the intruder. The steel-skinned man continues his relentless assault with a series of powerful guttural roars.
Despite delivering the fastest and hardest combo of his life, Toma's efforts prove futile.
A sudden, soft laugh sounding, the masked monster catches the punch effortlessly and prepares to counter.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, a massive pink crystal pillar erupts toward the enemy. The team watches as the terrain is reshaped by the violent impact of the spell. Dust settles to reveal the horned warrior standing unharmed while the teammates struggle to recover.
Karen gasps for air, overwhelmed by the crushing spiritual pressure emanating from their opponent.
The dark figure lunges with blinding speed as Sota conjures a blue energy shield.
A sudden, powerful hum sounding. The green-haired boy uses his spiritual force to repel the monster.
The impact of the collision sends the armored figure sliding backward across the cavern floor.
A sudden, bright shine sounding, Sota retaliates by unleashing a devastating wave of spiritual fire. Intense flames engulf the battlefield, turning the dark cave into an inferno of light. Debris rains from the ceiling as the shockwave of the fire attack settles slowly.
Sota stands his ground with fire-lit eyes, readying his glowing fist for another strike.
A sudden, loud boom sounding, the boy's final fiery blow connects with massive force.
The horned enemy is slammed into the stone wall by the weight of the explosion.
Corinne and Toma watch in disbelief, relieved to see their coordinated efforts finally working.
The wisp hovers near the fallen foe as the boy prepares to finish the fight.
A sudden, loud roar sounding, the figure reveals a terrifying, star-shaped maw filled with teeth.
Sota grimaces in pain as the battle's intensity pushes his spiritual limits to the brink.
The two teammates watch the unfolding horror with eyes wide and beads of sweat falling.
A sudden loud shout sounding, Corinne's desperate cry for Sota echoes through the dark chamber.
A sudden soft pulse sounding, the boy's glowing orange eye flickers with an ancient power.
The shock of the situation leaves Corinne and Toma paralyzed as the environment changes. The vision of the orange eye intensifies, suggesting a deeper spiritual awakening is occurring. A sudden loud shout sounding, his name is called out once more amidst the chaos.
The horned man mocks them, asking if they have managed to contact their help.
A sudden, soft laugh sounding, the monster stands tall, radiating a mocking and evil aura.
The dark warrior turns his head, sensing another presence or planning his next move.
Karen confirms she has requested backup while standing alongside her steel-skinned teammate.
Toma grits his teeth, declaring he won't just wait around for their rescue.
A sudden, loud shout sounding, the two warriors charge back into the fray together.
The horned figure prepares to meet their reckless advance with a confident and relaxed stance.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, Sota wakes up alone in a desolate, ruined city street.
Shattered buildings and abandoned cars paint a bleak picture of a forgotten urban wasteland.
The green-haired boy hears a faint cry for help and looks around the ruins.
He sprints across the cracked asphalt, determined to find the source of the distress.
Sota discovers a group of horned creatures surrounding a defenseless person in an alley.
The boy's mind races as he questions the identity of these new monstrous threats.
A young girl cringes in terror on the ground, trapped by the circle of monsters.
One horned fiend raises its heavy weapon as uniformed Sota questions his location in the ruins.
A warrior Sota variant charges forward with a flaming fist, shouting a desperate and urgent plea.
The horned monster attacks while the hoodie-clad warrior variant rushes past with a burning, intense focus.
The student realizes these creatures are the same monstrous fiends he has previously encountered and fought. The warrior variant strikes a monster's abdomen as the green-haired student watches with mounting intense anxiety.
A sudden loud boom sounding, the impact of the attack reshapes the surrounding urban environment and terrain.
The warrior variant of Sota apologizes for being late to a black-haired girl on the ground.
The student watches the girl smile as he gazes at the warrior variant's determined and powerful eyes.
The green-haired student is stunned to realize the powerful warrior variant is actually a future himself.
He insults the fiends for attacking while no one was around while hoisting one by its head. The student reflects on the monster's name, wondering if they are officially known as terrifying fiends. The hoodie-clad warrior variant shouts his resolve to defeat every enemy in the vicinity simultaneously together.
A massive energy eruption highlights the incredible difference in spiritual power between the two versions of Sota.
Violent waves of fire and lightning surge across the street, leaving deep cracks in the ground. The warrior variant stands triumphantly over a defeated enemy while the student remains frozen in shock. Identifying the move, uniformed Sota watches the warrior variant prepare a devastating Soulquake impact punch. Uniformed Sota finds the warrior's power on a whole other level as the variant continues his assault.
Surrounded by monsters, the warrior variant conjures a massive spinning wheel of fire above his head.
The student is amazed as the ring of fire incinerates multiple enemies in a single flash.
Moving through the inferno, the warrior variant continues his relentless assault against the remaining horned monsters.
Uniformed Sota gazes at the burning remains of the fiends, shocked by the warrior's immense strength.
Questioning if this is a memory from before the reset, Sota watches his warrior self help Mei.
The black-haired girl expresses her gratitude to Sota with a tired but relieved facial expression.
Uniformed Sota's eyes widen in realization as a familiar and long-forgotten memory begins to surface.
A vision of Mei and Sota sharing a happy moment in a classroom appears before him.
The black-haired girl smiles warmly in the past memory, her identity becoming clearer to Sota. Suddenly, a beam of blue energy pierces through the warrior's chest, drawing a spray of blur.
A gray-haired woman appears, expressing her surprise that the warrior variant is still surprisingly alive.
Clutching his severe chest wound, the warrior variant struggles while Mei watches in absolute terror.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, a trembling hand reaches out toward the fading vision of tragedy.
From an overhead view, the gray-haired woman declares that their journey finally ends in this place.
Refusing to let her decide their fate, the warrior variant protects Mei during a light explosion.
White smoke and intense light fill the street, obscuring the characters and pushing back the monsters.
The gray-haired woman watches the unfolding chaos with cold, piercing blue eyes and a calm expression.
Standing before a massive red gate, the woman in the coat remarks that the result is acceptable.
Back in the cavern, the injured warrior variant limps along with the support of the girl.
Uniform Sota watches his past self and the girl walk away into the darkness of the catacomb. The warrior variant admits he never expected the catacomb itself to provide their salvation this time.
Mei tells him to stay bright while a notification confirms they stayed for 72 hours.
A golden system notification announces that a powerful new skill has awakened by the catacomb's blessing.
Looking at the girl, the warrior realizes that her unique skill has also finally been triggered.
A glowing blue interface manifests before the duo as Uniform Sota watches from a distance.
Uniform Sota watches in shock as the screen details the reality-warping nature of the new skill.
The interface reveals the Heaven and Earth Reset skill, which possesses the power to reset history.
A foreboding message appears on the screen indicating a terrible price must be paid for usage.
The system explains that resetting the world will cause the user's existence to vanish entirely.
A sudden, quiet rumble sounding, Uniform Sota trembles as he learns the ultimate cost of resetting.